Important update about YouTube playlists. Hey everyone. We've received many messages asking why our YouTube playlists aren't showing up. Do we create YouTube playlists? Yes, we absolutely do. So why can't you see them? Honestly, we're not sure. We've been in contact with YouTube support for several months now, but we still haven't received a clear answer or solution. After much discussion, our team has decided to take matters into our own hands. We believe the issue might be related to the number of playlists we've created on a single channel, possibly too many. Our solution? We're launching 2 additional YouTube channels, giving us a total of 3. This way, we can organize our audiobooks better and avoid the playlist visibility issue in the future. This change only affects our YouTube audience. If you're a patron supporter, you can still access all our audiobooks by visiting the collection menu on Patreon. Thanks so much for your time and continued support. Happy listening, Rhodes replied matter-of-factly. You might forget what exactly you're supposed to reflect on. Although, I have to say, you did look pretty cool setting it all on fire. Still, I suspect you were just grumpy when you woke up. You really think of everything, don't you? Not bad, right? I wasn't complimenting you. Myra giggled as she poured a cup of tea for Makarov. The compensation notice, please tell me that wasn't part of what you torched? Of course not, I'm not that impulsive. Makarov said, reaching into his robes and pulling out a few crumpled sheets and a flat envelope. Here's the damage report, and a letter addressed to the both of you. A letter for us? Rhodes and Myra leaned in, curious. They opened the envelope together. But instead of a typical letter, the first thing they saw was a list of names, each written in a different style of handwriting. Jasper, Bill, Butch. The names sounded familiar. Then it hit them, these were all from Ravendell Village. Myra blinked in surprise. Is this a joint letter? It's from the village where you handled that rat infestation. The villagers sent his thank you letter directly to the Magic Council, hoping they'd formally commend Fairy Tale. Ah, wow. Myra breathed. She'd been on countless high-risk jobs before, but never had a village taken the time to send something like this. Was it because the mission's reward didn't match the difficulty? Or maybe because they saw Rhodes nearly collapse from exhaustion, chasing rats across rooftops? Makarov sipped his tea, his expression softening. Yajama told me some of the council members were looking for a reason to give us trouble again. But he whipped out this letter and just like that, the whole thing got dropped. He rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. Unfortunately, that means the commendation paperwork for you two got swept under the rug. Myra smiled and held up the letter. This is better than any medal. Rhodes nodded with a grin. I don't do missions for recognition. I just give it my all so moments like this can happen. If this letter helped the guild, then that's already a win. Rhodes was genuinely happy to help take some pressure off the guild master. But given the Fairy Tale Guild's remarkable talent for getting into trouble, it was only a matter of time before they landed in hot water again. Just then, Happy flew over holding a wallet in his tiny paws. Rhodes. We want grilled fish. 2. No, 4. Rhodes grabbed the wallet, which he had only just returned to Happy earlier, and firmly pressed a payment notice into his paws. I don't think you can eat grilled fish for the time being. Happy stared at the bill, blinking rapidly. He started counting the zeros with increasing horror until sweat trickled down his little feline face. Natsu. We're broke again. What? Natsu, who had just polished off a hearty meal, jumped up in alarm. His jaw dropped as he realized their hard-earned mini treasure chest was now on the chopping block. Even after taking down a criminal gang, the partial compensation they had to pay out left them in the red again. Both of them slumped, utterly deflated. Lucy watched them guiltily from across the table. Even if Natsu had been the one who caused most of the damage to the port, she was still technically part of the mission. And the explosion? Definitely the explosion. Rhodes silently brought over a plate of grilled fish and placed it in front of Happy. Happy's eyes sparkled, but then dulled with sorrow. We don't have any money. Worm said he wanted to treat you. Rhodes replied casually, though it was obviously his own money. Happy brightened instantly. Thank you, Worm. With new resolve, Natsu jumped up and dashed to the guild's job board. Well, no helping it. We gotta go earn it back. Just then, Romeo burst into the guild in tears. Dad hasn't come back since he left for his mission. The guild grew quiet. Makarov responded gently. Stay home and wait for him, Romeo. He'll return once he's finished the job. But he said he'd be back in 3 days. And now it's almost the 4th. Makarov's eyes narrowed slightly, but his voice remained steady. He may have just been delayed. Don't worry. Rhodes, already feeling something was off, walked over to the mission log and flipped through the records. It was a standard monster subjugation request. Target, Vulcan, location, Mount Hakobi. Hakobi Mountain wasn't far. You could walk there and back in a day, even at a leisurely pace. But Mikau still hadn't returned. That wasn't right. It was possible the target monster hadn't been located yet. Sometimes, even experienced mages had to spend time tracking down elusive prey. Mikau didn't have the aerial vision, scent tracking, or wide area search magic. It wouldn't be unusual if the mission dragged out a little longer than expected. Chapter 296, Mr. Rhodes is too reliable. Romeo stormed out in tears, right after landing a solid punch on the guild master's face. Makarov didn't chase after him. He had his reasons. As a rule, he wouldn't order a rescue just because a mage hadn't returned on time. Rhodes, however, watched the boy go and couldn't help but think, this kid's got a future. After all, it wasn't every day that someone punched a wizard saint out of raw emotion and got away with it. Seriously? He murmured with a wry smile. Makarov wasn't angry. If anything, he looked quietly troubled. Still, unless Mikau stepped up and personally requested help, intervening in another wizard's mission without permission could be seen as disrespectful. It might even imply that the other person was incapable of completing it themselves. Besides, no one was sure if Mikau was even in danger. To most members of the guild, the idea that someone as experienced as Mikau would struggle against a few Vulcans seemed absurd. Rhodes agreed. The job request had included detailed information about the monsters, climate, and terrain. Nothing looked suspicious on paper. And Mikau was no amateur. The guy was tough. Still, if Romeo was that worried, Rhodes figured there was no harm in quietly releasing a few tracking familiars into the wild to scout the area. Just to be sure. Myra, Bang. Rhodes was cut off by a loud smack. Natsu had slammed a mission flyer back onto the request board with more force than necessary. Nab, the guild's self-appointed job board guardian, looked visibly offended. But Natsu didn't even glance his way. He was already walking out, fists clenched, shoulders tight with emotion. Natsu. Happy called out, flying after him with a half-eaten grilled fish in his mouth. Lucy had just been sipping a drink at the bar, about to ask Myra if there were any apartments for rent nearby. But now she blinked, distracted. What's up with Natsu? Myra leaned closer, folding her arms and speaking gently. Natsu's father disappeared without a trace too. Well, technically, his foster father. A dragon. A dragon? Lucy nearly choked. Myra nodded and told her about Natsu's past, the tale of Neil, the fire dragon who raised him and then vanished one day without warning. He gets like this whenever someone close to him goes missing. Myra said softly. He just can't sit still. Then she looked at Lucy with a warm, trusting smile. So Lucy, could I ask you for a favor? You want me to go after him? Lucy brightened instantly. No problem. She turned around, put a hand to her mouth dramatically, and whispered to herself with a grin, Miss Mara Jane personally asked me for help. If I succeed this time, maybe I'll finally replace Rhodes as the strongest new member. Wait. He's not even a rookie anymore. That means I'd be the strongest rookie. Lucy beamed, already imagining the scene, herself in the spotlight, admired by everyone in the guild. Rhodes sighed and glanced at Myra helplessly. I'm starting to feel like there's another idiot in this guild. Are all protagonists this reckless? Myra gave him a playful smack on the arm. Don't say that. Still smiling, she turned to Lucy and said. In that case, I'll leave Natsu to you. And when you've got time, come over to my place, I'll treat you to something nice. Lucy lit up like a Christmas tree. Really? It's a deal. Her inner fangirl was still running wild. I'm going to Ms. Mara Jane's house. Alright, let's get moving. I'll give you a ride. Rhodes offered casually. Huh? A ride? Lucy followed him in a daze to the guild entrance. Summon. Scuttle crab. With a burst of magical light, two giant green crabs materialized in the street, their sturdy shells gleaming. Lucy's jaw dropped. That's astral summoning? But I have the cancer key already. She glanced down at her keychain. Wait, two summons at once? Rhodes replied. My summoning magic isn't celestial. I'll explain on the way. For now, we need to catch up to Natsu. He can't ride normal carriages, remember? Oh, right. Myra called out with a teasing grin. Be careful under your skirt, Lucy. Rhodes's crabs give him a full view of the surroundings. What? Lucy yelped and clutched the hem of her skirt protectively. Rhodes shot Myra an exasperated look. That was completely unnecessary. He tugged Myra's cheek lightly in retaliation, and added. Besides, Mount Hakobi is a snowy mountain. She'll be in long pants and winter gear anyway, right? Alright? Lucy stammered. Her eyes darted around guiltily. She clearly hadn't thought that far ahead. She didn't even bring cold weather clothes. Rhodes face palmed. Seriously? Go grab them, quick. I'll get something else ready for you. Behind the counter, Makarov, who had been quietly sneaking a drink, immediately closed his eyes and feigned sleep as Rhodes passed by with his arms full of supplies. Wait. Is this a rare magic book? Lucy gasped when Rhodes handed her a beautifully bound volume. This kind of thing isn't even sold in stores. Use it if things get dangerous, Rhodes said firmly. No matter how expensive a book is, your life is more important. He paused, then added with a faint grimace. If Macau had agreed to bring one, I wouldn't be this worried right now. Lucy accepted the gift with a complicated expression, then climbed aboard the crab's back. Today had been a lot. So much had happened, she wasn't even sure where to begin when she sat down to write in her diary later. As Lucy set off, Rhodes finally felt a little more at ease. With his 2 crabs acting as mobile surveillance, he could stream Lucy and Natsu movements and let Myra or the master know if anything went wrong. Though there was one drawback, he couldn't hear their conversations. To solve that, Rhodes sent out a small squad of merc wolves, slipping through the underbrush unseen. He instructed them not to appear unless there was combat, and when they did, they were to follow Natsu's orders without question and quietly listen in. Meanwhile, Natsu had just finished arguing with a carriage driver and was sulking at the edge of town, when he spotted the approaching crabs. His eyes lit up instantly. Hey! The crab taxi. He had just been wondering how he'd afford a ride. But why is it you? Where's Rhodes? Natsu asked bluntly the moment Lucy arrived. Lucy huffed. What's with that tone? I came here to help you, you know. Happy didn't hold back. Because Rhodes is way more reliable. I'm gonna pluck your whiskers, you smug little furball. Natsu chuckled. Even though Rhodes hadn't shown up in person, Natsu knew he was still keeping an eye on things. Rhodes being Rhodes, he probably had backup plans stacked on backup plans. But for something like this, Natsu didn't mind handling it solo. Well, mostly solo. He hopped onto the crab with practiced ease, gripping its long feelers like reins. Let's go. Charge. There are 2 crabs. Why are you squeezing onto mine? Lucy cried, stumbling as Natsu's abrupt mount nearly knocked her over. She barely managed to latch onto Natsu's backpack, and the moment the crab bolted, she was whipped back by the wind, flapping behind him like a windsock. Slow down. She shrieked, voice lost in the gust. Meanwhile, Happy cruised alongside on the second crab and smirked. Race you there, Natsu. Bring it on, Happy. No. Lucy's horrified scream echoed through the snowy pass. Back at the guild, Rhodes calmly reported to Myra through the magical feed. They're getting along fine. Playing games already. Myra smiled. That's great to hear. The 2 crabs dashed through forests and foothills, eventually climbing into the frosty gusts of Mount Hakobe. The ride was much faster than a regular carriage, perhaps too fast. Shivering in her puffy coat, Lucy huddled against the cold and muttered through chattering teeth. Thank goodness I listened to Mr. Rhodes. Natsu looked annoyed. Did that guy give you a list of rules too? No. He just told me to bring warm clothes, and gave me some emergency supplies. Lucy paused, then asked. Is Mr. Rhodes always this meticulous? Rhodes would make 100 contingency plans just to rescue a lost kitten. Natsu grumbled. Although Natsu had teamed up with Rhodes a few times recently and found his thoroughness useful, it didn't mean he liked it. Happy nodded in agreement. Rhodes is super reliable. When you're on a mission with him, you don't have to worry about anything except fighting. Even Natsu can't mess things up. Lucy was caught off guard by that last part. That's actually really reassuring. What did you just say? Natsu barked. Next time you team up with him, I'll crash your mission on purpose. Lucy sighed, letting out a puff of white breath. Chapter 297, Will Wild Monsters Become Stronger? With the help of the scuttle crabs, Natsu and Lucy had a much easier time climbing the mountain, but they weren't so lucky with the weather. They got caught in a blizzard, and the whole experience turned into a miserable uphill trek. It was the middle of summer, and yet here was a full-on snowstorm, right near Magnolia. Watching the scene unfold through crab, Rhodes couldn't help but feel a little disoriented, like time and space were colliding. You seem to care about Lucy a lot. During their afternoon break, Rhodes had been casually relaying Natsu and Lucy's location and status to Myra. Myra had listened quietly for a while, but now she finally voiced the question that had been on her mind. There was no way he could explain the truth directly. Rhodes thought carefully, trying to come up with the safest answer. You don't need to answer if it's going to be a lie. Myra didn't even look at him, she just glanced at his expression, then lowered her head and pulled out a pen and the account ledger, pretending to look busy. But Rhodes had already handled all the bookkeeping. There was nothing left to distract her. He gently took her right hand, slipped the pen from her fingers, and straightened them carefully before holding her hand in both of his. I can only tell you part of it, Rhodes said quietly. The master's here. Makarov, who had been quietly sipping tea nearby, blinked. He'd thought this was just a petty lover's quarrel. Was there really a need to drag him into it? Rhodes looked down, his tone serious. To be honest, the first time I met Wendy, and the first time I met Lucy, they both gave me a strange sense of familiarity. Like I'd seen them before. I have this feeling that Wendy will end up joining our guild eventually. And when she does, something major is going to happen. I don't know what exactly, but I can tell it won't be small. It might only affect a few people, or it could sweep up the entire guild. He took a breath, his grip tightening slightly on Myra's hand. I don't know what I'll be able to do when that time comes. I'm not even sure if my actions now are helping, or making things worse. You know, I'm someone who just appeared out of nowhere. That was what weighed on him the most. He knew Fairy Tale was supposed to have a happy ending, but what if his presence changed that? What if his interference made things worse? What if the guild, which should have overcome everything together, got hurt because of him? At first, he thought it was fine to grow stronger slowly and follow the story behind the scenes. But now, these weren't just story characters. They were his comrades. His friends. His family. Even without Myra in the picture, Rhodes couldn't forget the time Gray came to him, sincerely apologizing for being away when Rhodes had needed help. That wasn't the kind of thing people said to an outsider. They treated him like family. That's what scared him. And now that Lucy and Wendy were slowly entering the picture, he was starting to fear the weight of what might come. Myra gently squeezed his hand in return. Wow, so dramatic. Are you sure this isn't just some kind of prophecy? She teased lightly. Rhodes gave a helpless chuckle. Maybe it's a full-scale war with Grimoire Ironheart. Maybe a head-on clash with Phantom Lord. Maybe the Magic Council comes after us next. He felt her warmth grounding him and murmured, whatever it is, something big is coming. Of course something big was bound to happen. Makarov knew even more than Rhodes did. Whatever lay ahead might be tied to the guild's deepest secrets, or perhaps to the long-standing mystery behind the dragon's disappearance. But even so, you don't need to worry about that too much, Makarov said gently. First of all, you're not the only person who suddenly appeared. There are others out there, too, and everyone carries their own story. He smiled, setting his teacup down. The most important thing is this, you're one of us now. Your family. Whether what's coming affects a few of us or the whole guild, it won't change how we face it. No matter what happens, we'll face it together. Will things get worse because of you? No way. The more family we have, the stronger we become. Fairy Tale's always been a guild full of loud, reckless idiots who stir up trouble everywhere they go, so don't be afraid to mess up. Like I said earlier, just keep moving forward on the path you believe in. Makarov raised his hand, index finger pointing upward with his thumb out, his classic gesture. It meant, even if we're not in front of you, even if we're far away, we're always watching, and always by your side. Rhodes rubbed his nose, his voice slightly off. You're not trying to make me cry, are you? Makarov grinned. There's nothing wrong with crying. Rhodes grumbled. My girlfriend's watching. It's embarrassing. From behind, Myra wrapped her arms around him gently. Then I'll help you wipe them away. Rhodes placed his hand over hers and tried to change the subject. Natsu and the others have run into some Vulcans, 2 of them. Looks like they're guarding something. And now the fighting started. He mimicked Natsu with exaggerated flair, Iron Fist of the Fire Dragon. Whoosh. The dramatic reenactment froze mid-pose. On the vision screen, Natsu slipped on the icy ground and got smacked away, tumbling head over heels. Happy frantically rushed to catch him. Can this idiot please be serious for once? Rhodes cried out, exasperated. The 2 Vulcans wasted no time and turned to charge at Lucy. Thankfully, the crab darted in just in time, whisking her away. Even though Lucy was clearly shaken, she didn't panic. She gritted her teeth and pulled out one of her golden keys. She's summoning a celestial spirit. Wait, is that Taurus? That's the cow? Rhodes had read up on celestial spirit magic and recognized the names of the zodiac spirits, but this was his first time seeing one in action. He'd heard the spirits' appearances could shift based on their summoner's preferences. Still, he was baffled. A cow. With an axe. Staring at Lucy's chest? Seriously? Rhodes gave an unimpressed squint. It wasn't until Taurus noticed that Lucy was bundled up in a thick winter coat that he finally jumped into the fight, with a regretful look on his face. This guy seems kinda unreliable, Rhodes muttered. One of the Vulcans was held off by Taurus, while the other continued chasing Lucy up the snowy path. That's when 3 shadowy figures leapt from the darkness of a mountain wall, 3 of Rhodes' summoned wolves. 2 ordinary ones clamped onto the Vulcan's calves, tripping it flat onto the snow. The third, a 2-headed wolf, sprang onto its back and bit down on its neck. Lucy was visibly startled at first, but she looked relieved, until she saw Natsu return. Then her expression turned sour again, probably because she remembered her embarrassing moment earlier, and realized Rhodes might have seen the whole thing. But once Natsu got serious, the Vulcan stood no chance. Taurus, despite trying to hold his own, was mistaken for an enemy monster and sent flying back to the celestial realm with a single flaming punch. Rhodes was honestly disappointed in Taurus, supposedly one of the 12 most powerful celestial spirits. There are only 12 golden keys in the world, he muttered. And that's all Taurus can do? He couldn't even tank one punch from Natsu. The strength of celestial spirits increases with their summoner's magic power, right? Rhodes tried to recall a detail he'd once read in an obscure passage. That's correct, Makarov replied with a nod. Not impressed with Lucy's showing? Rhodes tilted his head. She's definitely a bit stronger than I was when I first summoned the scuttle crab. But honestly, I think I could have beaten her with just warm back then. In comparison, his own summoned creatures hadn't shown much growth over time. Shouldn't they be getting stronger too? Like, as I get stronger, shouldn't they evolve with me? He frowned. Or, does that mean I'm still at 0 progress? Chapter 298, Myra. Actually, I have a little savings. Macau had been injured, and Natsu and Lucy eventually found him in a cave. 2 Vulcans were stationed at the cave entrance, which had been partially blocked by ice. Strangely enough, the gorilla-like creatures showed signs of higher intelligence, standing guard with surprising discipline. When Macau saw Natsu and the crab arrive, his face lit up with a mix of relief and embarrassment. Watching from the crab's vision, Rhodes exhaled in relief. That old guy actually managed to flip one over. But it's good he made it back. Once they confirmed that Macau's life wasn't in danger, Natsu grinned and gave the crab's eye a wave of thanks. Rhodes smiled. For all his recklessness, that guy's pretty thoughtful when it counts. Since they needed to be careful with Macau's injuries, the group moved slowly on their return. That evening, after wrapping up guild work, Rhodes set aside his training to take some medicine and wait for them along the return path. Naturally, Myra came with him. On the way, she hesitated before speaking. There's something I've been meaning to ask you. Rhodes raised an eyebrow. Ask away. Myra looked serious, her voice soft. You mentioned once that you wanted to settle down in Magnolia, right? I did. Rhodes nodded and gave her hand a gentle squeeze. That wish had only grown stronger these past few months. Even after everything, dragons, disasters, and prophecy, he couldn't keep living like he was just passing through. Myra's eyes flickered. Then, can I ask how much you've saved? Rhodes gave her a cheeky grin. Wife checking the bank account already? You're shameless. She huffed, wrinkling her nose. Laughing, Rhodes said. Between a few high-paying missions, my monthly salary, which got raised again, and the small requests we've taken together, I've saved a little over 4 million jewels. He wasn't hiding anything. In truth, every jewel he earned was documented in the guild ledgers, and Myra was the one who processed most of it. If she really wanted to know, she could have estimated the total herself. That realization suddenly made him think, after marriage, he might need to find a way to stash some secret spending money. He could just say Worm was eating more than usual. And why the sudden interest? He asked. Actually, I've saved up a bit too. Myra held up 2 fingers to gesture a rough amount. About this much. Rhodes was genuinely surprised, but not because of the amount. Wait. Does that mean? Was she just offering to share the burden of buying a house? Or was she hinting that he should hurry up and propose? Seeing his stunned expression, Myra grew flustered. I found out recently that Elfman's been saving too. I think. He's assuming I'll kick him out one day. Oh. So he's planning to move out on his own, and you are thinking about keeping him at home, not just saving for a place with me. Rhodes smiled, understanding now. The siblings were just thinking about each other. Myra lightly punched him with her small fist. That house in Magnolia was our first home, me, Elfman, and Lisanna. It holds so many memories. Kicking Elfman out would be way too cruel. That's what being an older sister was like, Rhodes thought. Sure, she teased and scolded Elfman, but when it really mattered, she always put him first. And Elfman, for all his manly talk, was working hard quietly for his sister's sake. That's why I wanted to talk with you, Myra said, her voice trailing off. I just thought. She faltered. Saying it aloud would basically mean proposing. Even though she was the bold one when it came to love, this was different. And she hadn't prepared anything, no flowers, no rings. I get it. Rhodes said softly as he wrapped Myra in a warm embrace. Meeting Myra was, without question, the greatest stroke of luck in his life. Let's keep working hard together, for our family, and for everything ahead of us. Myra thumped him playfully a few times while in his arms. That's so unfair, saying something like that now. Rhodes grinned mischievously. Still holding her close, he was already making plans in his head, like stopping by the jewelry store a few more times to figure out exactly what kind of ring she liked. It was just an ordinary evening, no fancy dinner, no flowers, no moonlight on the sea. But on that quiet night, the two of them made an extraordinary promise. Maybe that's what real romance looks like, the quiet kind that only ordinary people share. Brother Rhodes. Sister Myra. Under the dim glow of the street lamps, Romeo's small figure stood at the end of the road, tears in his eyes. The moment he saw them, he quickly wiped his face, trying to appear strong. Rhodes walked up and gently patted the boy's head. Don't worry. Natsu, Happy, and Lucy found your father. Really? Romeo's eyes lit up instantly. I confirmed it with magic. They're on their way back right now. Just hearing the word magic was enough to reassure Romeo. It had that kind of power. How is he? Is Dad okay? Rhodes used a simple transformation spell to summon a medicine kit. He's hurt, but nothing serious. A little bandaging, and he'll be just fine. Romeo looked like he was about to cry again, but before Myra could even say anything, he clenched his fists and tried to hold it in. It's normal for wizards to get hurt. Coming back safely with scars after finishing a mission is an honor. I won't cry. Crying would disrespect Dad's efforts. Myra knelt down and gently wiped his cheeks. Did your dad tell you that? Yeah. At least I think he did. Right? Myra chuckled and nodded. Of course. And not just any wizard could say something that cool. Your dad's an amazing wizard. Yeah. Romeo beamed, his tears giving way to a proud, radiant smile. Rhodes remembered how just a few days ago, Romeo had been mocked by other kids. As a father, there are things you just have to protect. You'll understand when you and Myra have a kid of your own. That's what Macau had said. Looking at Romeo now, Rhodes felt like maybe he finally understood a piece of what Macau meant. Still, if it were him, he might handle things differently. He'd want to teach his kid not to get caught up in meaningless comparisons in the first place. But maybe that kind of thinking only works until you become a parent yourself. In the distance, two large crabs carried 3 people and 1 blue cat steadily across the street. Unnoticed by ordinary eyes, 3 wolves faded into the shadows and vanished. Dad. Romeo rushed forward. Dad, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. Macau, ignoring his soreness, jumped down and swept his son into a tight hug. I'm the one who should apologize. I made you worry. It's okay. Romeo murmured, clutching his father's coat. Because I'm the son of a wizard. He glanced back at Myra and Rhodes, who were smiling at him warmly. The son of a great wizard. Macau's heart swelled with emotion. He let go, crouched to Romeo's height, and gave him what was, in that moment, the coolest smile he'd ever seen. Next time those little punks laugh at you, just say this, can your dad take down 18 monsters? Yeah. Chapter 299, a book 18 Vulcans? Rhodes blinked in disbelief. Didn't you say there were only 3? Well. Macau scratched the back of his head, sheepish. Counting the 2 knots it took down, it turns out we encountered a total of 20. Might have accidentally wandered into their nesting grounds. You're incredible. Rhodes muttered, not sure whether to be impressed or horrified. But I definitely defeated 3. Natsu said proudly, tilting his head. Lucy shouted, her hands clenched in frustration. That was my celestial spirit. I have to apologize to him the next time I summon him. Anyway. Macau said, exhaling deeply. I really have to thank you all. I owe you one. By the time he had taken down 18 Vulcans, Macau had been completely spent. He could have holed up in the cave for a bit longer, but with the cold, hunger, and exhaustion mounting, the odds of lasting much longer were slim. If Natsu and Lucy hadn't shown up when they did, he'd been ready to go down swinging. Natsu just grinned. That's what we do, we're all guildmates. Romeo bowed politely. Thank you, Natsu, Happy, Lucy. Brother Rhodes, Sister Myra. Let's save the rest for tomorrow. Myra said kindly. Right now, your dad needs rest. Rhodes passed the medicine box to Macau. Here. The crab will take you back to town. They watched as the crab carried Macau and Romeo away. Natsu immediately leapt onto the back of another crab. Rhodes. I'm borrowing this one. Go ahead, but remember to go. Natsu shouted mid-sentence and sped off, not hearing a word after that. Happy flapped after him, grabbing onto his scarf as they vanished into the distance. Rhodes sighed. He could have ordered the crab to toss Natsu into the river just to teach him a lesson, but no. He had an image to maintain in front of the newcomers. No use stooping to Natsu's level. Besides, they could deal with that conversation tomorrow. I feel like I've been through 10 quests today. Lucy groaned, then gave a polite farewell. Miss Mara Jane, Mr. Rhodes, thank you. I'll head off now. As she turned and walked away without hesitation, Rhodes raised an eyebrow. Where are you going back to? Eh? Of course Wait. Lucy froze mid-step, suddenly remembering. I haven't rented a place yet. What do I do? This girl. Rhodes sighed. She really was cut out for fairy tale. Myra smiled warmly and said. If you don't mind, you can stay at my place for the night. Tomorrow, you can look for a place properly. Really? Thank you so much. Lucy's eyes sparkled like stars. Rhodes turned to Myra with a pleading look that clearly said, can I stay too? Myra gently pushed his face away without even looking. The answer was clearly no. Left with no choice, Rhodes escorted the two girls to Myra's house, then headed home alone. That night, after finishing his daily training, Rhodes flopped onto his bed, deep in thought. With both his and Myra's savings combined, they could already afford a house comparable to the one he was currently renting. But thinking ahead, they'd need a bigger house, either buy one with room to grow or purchase a modest one and renovate it later. Add a floor, knock out some walls. Whatever it took to turn it into a proper home. Either way, it meant they'd need extra funds. Thankfully, if both of them worked together, saving up would be much easier. Just taking 1 or 2 high-paying jobs each month would stack up quickly. Missions around the million-jewel mark were ideal, decent payout, decent safety margin. If we keep this up, we'll have what we need in just a few months. With that happy thought, Rhodes drifted into a peaceful sleep. The next morning, at the Strauss residence, 4 people were gathered around the breakfast table. Wait, why is Mr. Rhodes here too? Lucy blinked in surprise. Huh? I'm the one who should be asking, you're the one sleeping over at my girlfriend's house. Rhodes shot back with a smirk. Sorry, I forgot. Lucy's cheeks turned red. She had slept so well the night before, she almost forgot it wasn't her home. But you and Miss Myra seem to have a really close relationship. Her tone when addressing Myra had shifted subtly, no longer nervous or overly formal. Clearly, they'd bonded a bit. Still, compared to the season teasers like Kenna or Loki, Lucy was a rookie. Myra leaned into Rhodes' shoulder and, with a playful wink, teased, we're in our honeymoon phase, of course we're close. Honeymoon phase? Lucy turned even redder. For someone with no dating experience, just hearing that kind of phrase was enough to fluster her. Myra grinned. So Lucy, have you ever been in love? Of course I have. 3 times, even. Lucy blurted, lying on reflex. Much like Kenna, she didn't like falling behind in love stories. Rhodes joined in, playing along smoothly. Wow, 3? That's a lot. Myra and I just fell for each other once. True love from the start. That's not being fickle. Lucy shouted in protest, completely off guard. The devious couple burst into laughter. Teasing newcomers was a guilty pleasure neither of them seemed able to resist. Elfman, used to the chaos, calmly finished his breakfast as if none of it had happened. Sis, I'm heading to the guild. Planning to take a job today. All right. Let us know once you pick one. Myra replied gently. After he left, Lucy finally voiced what had been on her mind all night. I didn't expect Elfman to be your brother, Miss Myra. Why's that? Myra asked, raising an eyebrow. Well, aside from the hair color, you two don't look related at all. Myra was elegant, gentle, and radiant, like a fairy tale heroine. Elfman was. Well, not. Rhodes leaned back and grinned. That's because Myra's stronger, she inherited all the good traits for herself. That's too mean. Myra said, casting a pouty glare at Rhodes. Elfman is already pitiful enough. Lucy added with a deadpan look. Honestly, the way you said that just made him sound even more pitiful. Unlike Elfman, Lucy wasn't as skilled at ignoring teasing. After breakfast, she tagged along with Myra and Rhodes as they headed out for the day. Since she was still a newcomer, Rhodes didn't tease her much. On the way, he asked. So, have you decided where you're going to live? Yeah. Ms. Myra mentioned the guild has a girls' dormitory, but the rent's 100,000 jewels a month. Lucy sighed. I'm gonna look around town first. If I don't find anything cheaper, I'll settle for the dorm. Lucy ended up lucking out. After checking out several listings, she actually found a quaint little apartment for just 70,000 jewels per month. It was right by the canal and not far from the shopping district. In fact, in terms of convenience, it might have been better than Rhodes' own place. After striking a deal with the landlady and getting her keys, Lucy rushed back to the guild to grab her luggage. She told everyone that today she'd unpack and rest, and that she'd officially start her work as a fairy tale wizard tomorrow. Later that afternoon, Natsu and Happy scoured the mission board before running over to find Rhodes. "We picked a job," Natsu declared. "Yeah," Happy added. "This one looks fun." Rhodes took the request form and read it aloud. "Retrieve or destroy the book Daybreak from Duke Everlew Mansion." He raised an eyebrow. "Wait, are we allowed to steal stuff now?" Myra smiled and clarified. "It's not stealing if the item rightfully belongs to the client. Sometimes nobles hoard things they shouldn't, or keep property that was lost in legal disputes. If it can't be retrieved through normal channels, that's where we come in. But we don't do common thievery." "Got it." Rhodes nodded. "So, when are you heading out?" Natsu cracked his knuckles. "Tomorrow. We'll blast in and—" Before he could finish, Rhodes interrupted, smiling slyly. "Perfect. Then tonight, I'll show you something that'll really get you fired up." Chapter 300, Daybreak. Natsu had always dreamed of seeing a dragon. His main goal was to learn more about Gneil. His secondary goal? To challenge a dragon and test how strong his dragon slayer magic really was. And on this night, Natsu finally saw one. Unfortunately, the mountain dragon didn't know Gneil, nor did it seem to know anything about the dragons in this world. As for Natsu's second goal, he got beaten. Aside from a slight flicker of recognition in the dragon's eyes when Natsu unleashed a dragon slayer magic, the mountain dragon treated the entire battle more like playtime with a child than a real fight. A casual tail swipe here, a lazy wing flap there, none of it looked like it was taking Natsu seriously. And oddly enough, Rhodes noticed something strange. The mountain dragon seemed to be a bit friendlier toward Natsu than toward him, its actual summoner. Not that it had ever disobeyed him, of course. Still, maybe that was why Natsu survived the encounter, completely unscathed and still bouncing with energy. "Rhodes, summon it again. I want to go another round," Natsu shouted, fists clenched and eyes burning with determination. "No way. It's exhausting," Rhodes replied flatly. Also, he didn't want to get disliked by his own summon. Honestly, if it weren't for their good friendship, Rhodes wouldn't even bother calling out the mountain dragon just to entertain Natsu. "You should train for at least a month before challenging it again," Rhodes said, as he finished gathering his mana to summon the sentinel instead. "Better yet, try beating me first. If you can do that, then maybe you're ready." "It's settled, then." Natsu grinned. "I'll take a job, earn some money, train like hell, and then I'm coming back for round 2. Let's go, Happy." "Aye, sir." The next morning, Natsu and Happy, fueled by mischief, paid Lucy an early visit. It wasn't unusual for senior wizards to team up with newcomers, but those two had other motives, mostly pranks and antics while Lucy was still adjusting to guild life. The amount of energy they spent plotting chaos was honestly on par with the effort Rhodes had spent wooing Myra. They barged into Lucy's new home, flipped through her belongings, made a mess of her furniture. Lucy yelled, chased them around, maybe smacked them once or twice, but ultimately, she didn't throw them out. "Do you have a key that summons dragons?" Natsu asked with stars in his eyes. "I want one. Then I can call it out and fight it." "There's no such celestial spirit," Lucy shot back, appalled. "And why would you summon one just to fight it?" Happy added helpfully. Plus, didn't you just get whooped by a dragon?" "I did not get whooped," Natsu barked, face red. "I just didn't win, that's all." Even if you don't have a dragon," Natsu said. "Can't you just summon all your spirits at once so we can see 'em?" Lucy shook her head firmly. "Nope. You can only summon one at a time. That's a basic rule of celestial spirit magic. But Rhodes can summon a whole bunch at once," Natsu pointed out. Lucy slammed her hands on the table, frustration bubbling over. "I was wondering about that yesterday. Don't you think it's weird? Those giant crabs that carried us up the mountain, plus the 3 wolves that protected us, they stayed around for hours. And not even one of them vanished." "Huh?" Natsu tilted his head, genuinely confused. "Isn't that normal? Rhodes just really strong. It's not just a matter of strength." Lucy flailed her arms in exasperation. "Even if the 2 crabs were twins and the 3 wolves were summoned separately, that still means he's maintaining at least 2 active gates at the same time." She leaned over the table, eyes wide. "And he kept them open for hours. That's unheard of." Natsu shrugged, utterly unfazed. "So? Rhodes strong. I'm telling you, that's not the point." Lucy groaned and raked her fingers through her hair. "Ugh, why am I even explaining this to you?" Explaining something like this to people unfamiliar with celestial spirit magic was exhausting. Only a fellow summoner could understand how ridiculous Rhodes' feat truly was. Even though he said his magic is different from celestial magic. Lucy muttered, still thinking aloud. Still, I should ask him when we get back. Maybe there's some kind of secret, something that lets newcomers rise to the top of the guild so fast. She started to daydream. Natsu, ever the instigator, nodded as if confirming her hopes. Actually, there is a secret. Lucy's head snapped around. Really? I saw it. Rhodes handed it to Myra to keep safe. I should have asked the night before last. Lucy kicked herself. But Natsu grew oddly serious. Don't get your hopes up. Something that important doesn't just get handed out to newbies. Unless. Lucy leaned in. Unless you can prove you're capable. Natsu grinned mischievously. Like, say. Completing this mission. He slapped the mission request onto the table and immediately turned away, cackling with happy while Lucy was too distracted to notice. Unbelievable. Just retrieving a book nets us 200,000 J? The reward's been bumped up to 2 million J? Rhodes looked at the updated request form with disbelief. All that for a single book? Was it some ancient grimoire? A cursed tome? Or a one-of-a-kind family heirloom? Makarov chuckled, stroking his beard. The client just sent the updated details. But Natsu already accepted it yesterday. Rhodes' first instinct was that he should tag along with Natsu. His second instinct made him pause. A jump from 200,000 to 2 million? That's not a normal adjustment unless the job just got a lot more dangerous. And if that's the case, it's definitely not suitable for rookies like Lucy. He looked up sharply. Should we go retrieve them? Makarov looked at Rhodes like he had a few screws loose. Why do you want to bring them back? Rhodes' eyes gleamed. Because Myra and I could take the job instead. A 2 million jewel reward? That's right up our alley. To be fair, it was the perfect type of mission for the two of them. But Makarov shook his head. You'll be staying in the guild for now. I want you to sit in with me at the council's regular meeting in a few days. Rhodes slumped with exaggerated grief. Master. You've changed. Back then you were always trying to kick me out to go earn my keep. But now that I actually want to leave the guild for work, you won't let me go? Not to mention. He used to always drag Myra along too. Makarov gave him a calm look. This meeting is important. I want you there. Fine, fine. Rhodes sighed, resigning himself, and began flipping through the request form anyway, looking for any hidden dangers. He wasn't too concerned about Natsu. A 2 million jewel bounty put this at about the level of a medium to high difficulty subjugation mission. If Natsu got serious, he could absolutely handle it. And frankly, this kind of sudden reward increase could just be the client panicking and tossing around money without thinking it through. Sure, Natsu could be reckless, but he wasn't new to this. He knew how to deal with sudden complications. Plus, Lucy wasn't exactly a pushover either. She had 3 golden keys, that meant a solid lineup. Myra. Rhodes asked suddenly. Do you remember which celestial spirits Lucy has? Myra tilted her head, recalling. Let's see. Aquarius, Taurus, and Cancer. It seemed like a good number of Lucy's key summoned support-type spirits instead of fighters. Rhodes nodded, a little disappointed. Too bad she doesn't have Leo or Sagittarius. Astrologically speaking, Myra was a Leo and Rhodes was a Sagittarius. Even though the zodiac spirits weren't literally tied to their personalities, he still thought it'd be fun to see their spirit counterparts. Myra suddenly lit up. Why don't we make 2 custom keys and mess with Lucy a little? Rhodes immediately mimicked Lucy's summoning pose from the other day. Open the gate of Leo. Mra Jane. Myra gave him an amused blink. Then what do I do? Pop out from behind the sofa going ta-da. No need. Rhodes said, tapping his chest with a smile. The gate to you is already open right here. Myra lifted the tray in her hands threateningly, but in the end, she didn't swing. Just then, Levy's voice called from the doorway, Hey, Sister Myra. Is the request about that book from Duke Everlu's estate already taken? Chapter 301, Writing novels is dangerous. Levy had always been drawn to book-related missions. But this one, retrieving a single book with a 200,000 J reward seemed too good to be true. That's why she hesitated for a whole day. Then today, she found out it had already been taken. And the reward had jumped to 2 million. A part of her felt relieved. She might have been tempted by the original offer, but this kind of money usually came with complications far beyond her capabilities. If she had taken it rashly, who knows what danger she would have faced. Myra encouraged her gently. Why not look for something more suitable? In the corner of the guild, Luke had already slunk away. He wiped cold sweat from his brow and slipped out before anyone noticed. Lucy, the actual celestial spirit mage, was fine. But why was Rhodes, the faux celestial mage, shouting Gate of Leo? Staying in the guild was starting to feel more and more dangerous. Here, 2 beers. I've got it. Rhodes placed the mugs on the table. Mikau? You're not even fully healed yet and you're drinking already? This kind of injury? Piece of cake. How'd you get banged up like that hunting Vulcans and still have the nerve to brag? Wakaba blew a puff of smoke and slapped the table, laughing. Mikau, you suck. Rhodes gave Wakaba a look. When Mikau was missing, you had the sourest face of all. And now that he's okay, you're the first to start teasing him? What did you say? I beat 18 of them. Mikau stood up and leaned forward. If it were you, you'd maybe take out 17. No, 16 at most. Wakaba also stood, forehead pressed to his. I'd take out 19, maybe 20. 16. 20. Don't think I'll go easy just cause you're still bandaged. 15. And don't think you can even compare to me. 21. 14. Is this a new kind of auction? Rhodes sighed. No point in stopping them, they probably weren't actually going to fight anyway. 3 days flew by in a flash. Partial takeover, Mountain Dragon Claw. Rhodes flexed the dragon-like arm that had taken form, testing its balance. Then he clenched his fist and slammed it into the ground. Mountain Fist. Boom. From the point of impact, a deep rumble echoed out, and a long crack split the courtyard from the center all the way to the entrance. Not entirely satisfied, he adjusted the angle and threw another punch. This time, the shockwave didn't travel as far, but a web of cracks spread outward like spider silk, and the soil and stone beneath the surface crumbled. Feels off. Is this what they call strange strength? Rhodes carefully checked the perimeter. The fence wasn't damaged, but he figured this technique probably wasn't suited for courtyard practice. Alright, repair time. Full body takeover, Mountain Dragon. He raised his arms. Earth magic. Attune to the spirit of the earth. Rebuild what's been broken. Unite. The cracked ground slowly knit itself back together, though a small mound of earth remained where he'd first struck. The original rift had compacted into a raised ridge of stone. Still a bit too much power. Rhodes muttered, canceling the magic. Time to clock in. As he entered the guild hall, he caught sight of Lucy complaining to Myra. Lucy, you're back? Where are Natsu and Happy? There. She said weakly, pointing toward the tavern corner. Natsu and Happy were already goofing off as if the entire job hadn't just gone sideways. Lucy was visibly shaken, her very first official mission had ended with no reward. What happened? Rhodes asked, settling naturally beside Myra. Myra, already familiar with his routine, handed him a towel and a cup of water. Actually, Lucy began, recounting everything that had happened during the job. It turned out that the client, KB Mellon, was the son of the famous novelist Zeku Mellon. The mission had originally been a simple retrieval, to recover the novel Daybreak from Duke Everlu's estate. However, things changed when Lucy and the others learned the truth. Years ago, Zeku Mellon had been imprisoned by Duke Everlu for 3 long years and was forced to write a story glorifying the Duke. That story became Daybreak. After being freed, Zeku publicly denounced the novel, calling it the greatest shame of his career. He even went as far as to injure his own writing hand and later died in despair. KB believed the book's continued existence was an insult to his father's legacy and wanted it destroyed. But instead of burning it, Lucy unlocked the spell woven into its pages. The seemingly meaningless story rearranged itself into a heartfelt letter, a secret message from father to son. KB was deeply moved, recognizing the book not as an embarrassment, but as his father's final, hidden treasure. He accepted the letter as his father's true final work. And that's why. Lucy sighed. Since the original request was to destroy the book and we didn't, Natsu said we couldn't take the reward. He said it was about protecting the guild's reputation. 2 million. Myra echoed softly, watching Lucy's conflicted expression. Even though I understand his decision, it still hurts. Lucy confessed, resting her head on the table. That was 2 million J. I remember reading something by Zeku Mellon before. Rhodes mused thoughtfully. Didn't expect he went through something like that. He'd been slowly learning more about this world through literature. While he hadn't read many books, Zeku Mellon was a name even he recognized. Being a novelist is really dangerous. He added playfully. One wrong word and boom, locked up in a mansion, forced to write with a pen in one hand and a sword to your neck. No food until the manuscript's done. That's not normal. Lucy shot up, right? That's a rare case. Still, the concern lingered in her eyes. After all, she was secretly writing a novel herself. Would she end up getting kidnapped by an obsessive fan? I hope so. Rhodes nodded, then asked. And what about the Duke? I mean, illegal imprisonment isn't exactly part of a noble's rights, is it? We gathered some evidence of Everlu's crimes. Lucy replied. The city government plans to open an investigation, and since he's a wizard, the Magic Council will also step in. Sounds like you two handled things pretty well. Rhodes said. Lucy gave a weak smile. But still. This was my first official mission. Myra offered a kind smile. Even if you didn't get paid, you got to read the author's greatest work first, right? That's a reward too, isn't it? I guess that's true. Lucy's mood lightened a bit as she thought about the hidden letter. It was a beautiful story filled with love. A treasure she'd be proud to witness. But still. Lucy added playfully. Miss Myra, you owe me something. What's that? The secret to Mr. Rhodes getting strong. Happy said he gave it to you for safekeeping. Rhodes blinked. Wait, I have a secret to getting stronger? Why didn't anyone tell me? Don't tell me they lied to me. Lucy's expression turned into one of comic betrayal. Myra giggled and tapped her chin. Well, if you really want to know, there is something. Lucy's eyes sparkled. What is it? What is it? One moment. Myra opened a drawer and pulled out 3 folded sheets of paper. These are it. Lucy eagerly took them and read through the contents aloud. Push-ups, sit-ups, meditation, long-distance running, and magic practice. She flipped to the second sheet. Her face paled. The initial version, the intense version, and the revised nightmare version. Myra explained sweetly. Chapter 302, Don't move your hands because I have a summoned beast that helps heal my injuries, an amazing pharmacist to keep me in check, and Myra to take care of me. Rhodes said matter-of-factly. I'm still alive and kicking. That said, he remembered how every visit to Grandma Porley Uzakid during his intense training days had come with a fierce scolding. She even told me she'd never treat me again. He added with a nostalgic sigh. Things had gotten better recently, mostly because he'd shifted some of his time from brutal physical training to deeper magical meditation. Even so, Lucy still looked unconvinced as she reread the training schedule. This is just insane. If you ever watch Natsu train, you'd stop thinking that. Sometimes, he works even harder than I do. Rhodes said, sipping from his cup. Honestly, there's no shortcut to power. Unless, of course, you're up for dark alternatives. He leaned back and said in a more serious tone. There used to be a place called the Magic Development Bureau. They ran horrible experiments on kids, modified their bodies to try and force power into them. Lucy's eyes widened. It's been banned now. Rhodes continued. But if you're in a hurry, I could always sign you up for something like that. Absolutely not. Lucy blurted, appalled. Rhodes chuckled. Exactly. That's why the only real way is to train. That's it. I'm not saying you need to do what I do. Our magic types are different. I told you before. My summoning isn't celestial spirit magic, so don't measure yourself by my results. Find your own path. Lucy gave a genuine nod. Thanks, Mr. Rhodes. I get it. Finishing her drink, she stood up. Anyway, I better start looking for another job. I need to pay next month's rent. Rhodes offered an alternative. You know, if it's just about rent, the tavern here pays decently. Want to try being a waitress? I thought you had enough people. Well, if it's to help a newcomer. He said with a sly smile. We'll make space. Myra and I were planning to go on a trip soon. If you're working here, we can leave without guilt. Lucy narrowed her eyes. That sounds more like you're trying to free up your schedule for a date with Miss Myra. Rhodes gave up pretending. Correct. So, does that count as taking care of you? I guess it does. Lucy sighed. But I still want to do more. You know, wizard-like things. Happy popped his head out. Actually, Lucy just wants to be famous. No way. Lucy shouted. But her voice faltered. I mean, maybe just a little. Myra's eyes sparkled. Oh, like how Gray can't stop stripping, Lucy's addicted to fame? Please don't compare me to a compulsive exhibitionist. She's right. Natsu chimed in, grinning. Lucy's nowhere near as fast at stripping. Why would I even try to compete in that? Lucy yelled. And why are you pushing me to choose a job? Because last time Happy and I picked. Natsu explained cheerfully. This time, it's your turn. Don't worry, we'll tag along. Lucy huffed. Oh, so we're a team now. I'm not getting tricked into any more maid outfits. Anyway, it sounds like you were just looking for a blonde girl. Any blonde girl would have done, right? That's right. Natsu said with his usual bluntness. But hey, we found Lucy, didn't we? We think you're a good person. Lucy blushed slightly. Was this acceptance? Did that mean she was officially one of them? Watching from the counter, Rhodes leaned closer to Myra and teasingly whispered. Looks like Natsu's pretty good at winning girls over. Myra raised an eyebrow and gave his hand a sharp pinch. Aren't you one to talk? Rhodes raised his hands in mock innocence. Me? I've never used tricks to win a girl's heart. I don't believe you. I swear, on Gray's clothes. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the guild settled into its final round of tavern chatter for the day. After a few busy hours of banter, beer, and bounty hunting tales, the crowd thinned out and the laughter quieted. Lucy hadn't found a mission that suited her, so she decided to try again tomorrow. Just before she left, Makarov called out to Rhodes. "Be ready. We leave first thing in the morning." Rhodes gave him a nod, then returned to his usual evening routine with Myra. After wrapping up their daily training, they both went to change. When Myra stepped back into the room, Rhodes nearly forgot how to breathe. "Whoa," he said, blinking. New outfit. Myra had swapped her usual attire for a sleeveless white crop top and a pair of snug hot pants that revealed the fairy tale guild mark on her upper thigh. Though the weather was warm, she still looked cooler than a summer breeze, and much more dangerous. Her legs. They deserved their own calendar. Felt like trying a different style. She said, twirling slightly. "Does it look okay?" "My heart's racing." She tapped a finger to her chin, pretending to think. "I think there might be a word missing in that sentence." Rhodes smirked. "Since when do I mess up my words?" "Let me rephrase, you look beautiful, dazzling, and utterly enchanting. You've got me head over heels, and... Wait." He paused, narrowing his eyes. "You're baiting me into complimenting you more, aren't you?" Myra grinned. "Caught me. So did I pass?" "Just barely." She stood on tiptoe and gave him a kiss on the cheek. "This help your score?" Rhodes leaned in and echoed with a smile. "You barely passed." The two of them laughed, standing close under the soft glow of the hallway lanterns. Eventually, Myra sobered slightly, asking, "Are you ready for tomorrow?" "Everything's packed and prepped," Rhodes replied. "Except one thing." "What's missing?" "You." Myra chuckled. "If I went with you, Master would probably send you back in the first 5 minutes. Maybe we should just stage a coup and let the Master retire. From now on, we'll attend all the meetings together." "Sounds tempting. But being guild master means spending your days writing self-reflection reports." "You're right. Let's just let him keep doing the hard work." As they approached Myra's doorstep, Rhodes pulled her into an embrace, his hand gently trailing down her back. "Starting tomorrow, we'll be apart for 3. Maybe even 5 days," he said, his voice full of reluctant affection. Myra tightened her hug. "Even a single day apart felt too long when you were in love." "So?" The moment the word left his lips, Myra could already tell he was up to no good. "And sure enough," Rhodes asked with a playful gleam in his eye. "Before we say goodbye, how about making a memory we'll never forget? Something unforgettable?" Myra pretended to think deeply. "Oh, you mean like sparring?" Rhodes blinked. There was no way she wasn't teasing him. As she tried to play innocent, he leaned in closer, his intentions obvious. Myra, anticipating it, closed her eyes. After a long moment, their lips parted. Myra's cheeks were flushed as she quickly grabbed his wrist, flustered. "Don't move your hand," she scolded, half embarrassed, half laughing. "Oh. Then I won't move," Rhodes replied smoothly. Myra let go of his hand, only to wrap her arms around his neck again. Chapter 303, The Days When Rhodes Was Away. The first day Rhodes was away, I missed him. Humphrey. What a jerk. I didn't miss him at all. I said don't move your hands, did that mean leave them there like that? Ugh. Pervert. Myra was thinking all sorts of strange things while going about her morning chores. The train should have left by now. Maybe they've already left Magnolia. "Sister Myra, you're spacing out again," Lockie reminded her. "I'm not," Myra replied stubbornly. "But you've wiped that flower vase 3 times already. It gets shinier the more you wipe it," she mumbled. "I was just thinking something might be wrong with yesterday's expense reports." Lockie gave a knowing smirk. "Is that so?" "It is. I still need to reconcile the books later." Myra emphasized the word reconcile with a little warning in her voice. Lockie quickly dropped the teasing. "You don't mess with Myra when she's in that tone." The guild still had to run smoothly, even with both the guild master and Rhodes away. It just meant a bit more work for Myra. Staffing wasn't a problem. Sally and Izzy could help out with shifts at the tavern. Unlike Lucy, they weren't interested in quests, and only did part-time work because they occasionally picked up easier jobs elsewhere that paid better. But if Myra or Lockie asked, they were always happy to lend a hand. The real challenge lay in the administrative work, logging and organizing missions, tracking guild income and expenses, and managing the tavern's books. Myra was capable of doing it all. After all, she had done so herself before Rhodes ever started helping with guild affairs. But today, everything just felt a little emptier. A little less efficient. It was strange, despite constantly teasing and sparring with someone every day, she got more done when that someone was around. Myra wasn't lying to Lockie, She really did need to tally the books. How many barrels of beer were sold yesterday? Kana, who had been drinking since sunrise and wasn't even tipsy, looked up from her barrel. Eh? How should I know? I wasn't asking you. Myra turned toward the seat beside her and paused. It was empty. Kana gave a cheeky grin. Seriously? You already miss him after just one day? It's not that extreme. I just got used to him helping with this kind of stuff. Myra tried to play it off, but then paused. A small, warm smile spread across her face. But I guess that does count as missing him, huh? Kana groaned into her drink. Ugh. Gross. I don't want to see that expression on your face. Then I'm terribly sorry. Myra, who had no shame left to be embarrassed by love, was unbeatable. Lucy showed up at the guild bright and early, still undecided about which mission to take. Hi there, are you Lucy? Huh? Yes. Lucy turned to see a cute girl with bright blue hair smiling warmly at her. I'm Lucy, and I just joined the guild a few days ago. Please take care of me. Can I call you Luchan? I'm Levy. Levy gave Lucy a friendly nickname right away, her tone bright and bubbly. Then she gestured behind her, introducing with a smile. These are Jet and Roy. They're on my team. Hey there. The two boys greeted cheerfully. Lucy happily accepted Levy's nickname, it felt warm and welcoming. Jet and Roy, however, found themselves slightly flustered. As they looked at Lucy, they couldn't help but notice she was just as cute as Levy. But hadn't they heard rumors that Lucy was the terrifying new girl who single-handedly took down the mercenary guild Iron Fang and even defeated a monstrous gorilla? Of course, in truth, those wild tales were thanks to Natsu. But once a certain beautiful, mischievous, and gossip-loving lady from the guild, probably Kana, retold the story with some artistic flair, the version that spread made it sound like Lucy had done everything herself. And just like that, Lucy, the fearsome newcomer, had become the guild's latest hot topic. Natsu and Happy also contributed in their own annoying little ways to the growing chatter about Lucy. For example, I heard you're writing a novel, Luchan? Levy asked, her eyes twinkling with excitement. Lucy buried her face in her hands, groaning. Ugh. Natsu's such a blabbermouth. Actually, it was Happy who told me. Levy admitted, then clasped her hands together, beaming. Can I be your first reader? I love books so much. But sadly, I'm terrible at writing. But please. Pretty please? Maybe it was because all the other girls in the guild were older than Levy, and Lucy was the first one her age, but Levy was especially eager to be friends with her. And with their shared love for books and stories, the two hit it off instantly. After chatting for a while, they even discovered they both owned the latest model of enchanted reading glasses. Naturally, their bond deepened. Meanwhile, the guild hall was as lively as ever. Natsu, growing restless while Lucy browsed the mission board, ended up picking a fight with Gray for no reason at all. In the middle of their scuffle, Natsu yanked down Gray's pants while he wasn't paying attention, and launched him, pantsless, straight toward Lucy and Levy. Ah! My underwear. Gray panicked for a second, then stood up with his usual deadpan expression and said casually to the two nearby girls. You two. Mind lending me your panties? Levy recoiled in disgust, while Lucy's fist rocketed forward and socked him square inches the jaw. You pervert. You jerk. What did you just say to Levy? Jet and Roy immediately charged into the fray to defend their teammate. As more and more guild members got drawn into the chaos, the entire scene exploded into an all-out brawl. A long bench soared through the air, heading straight for Myra. Myra unconsciously found herself waiting, hoping for that familiar, reliable figure to show up. But no one came. With a quiet sigh, she shifted into her Satan soul form. Her fingers curled around the center of the flying bench and, with a sharp crack, she crushed it in one hand. A wave of overwhelming magical pressure surged through the guild hall, silencing the chaos. Still in her demonic form, Myra wore a sweet, serene smile that didn't quite match the atmosphere. Would you all mind calming down just a little? She asked gently. Everyone froze mid-motion. Why yes, ma'am. They all replied in unison, stiff as boards. Vegeta, the unlucky one who'd kicked the bench, immediately bowed at a perfect right angle. I'm so sorry. Myra returned to her usual self with a cheerful smile, raising a fist encouragingly. All right then. Carry on. Don't hold back. Everyone blinked, unsure if they'd heard that right. Natsu didn't wait. Taking the invitation literally, he rammed his head backward into Nab, who had him in a headlock. Since Myra had technically told them to continue, well, why not? With that, the fight resumed in full force, as if nothing had happened. Lucy gaped. That was Miss Myra? Levy gave a wobbly smile. Yup. That's her. She is a demon, after all. Truthfully, Even Levy sometimes found Myra a little scary in that form. It's hard to believe. Lucy murmured. I saw something in Sorcerer Weekly the other day about her returning to action, but I didn't expect her to be that intense. She still felt shaken by the raw pressure Myra had unleashed. Is she the strongest wizard in the guild? Not necessarily. Levy said thoughtfully. If we're just talking about the female wizards, there's also Ursa. She's just as powerful. Levy hesitated, then added. Actually, a couple of months ago, Myra and Ursa had a sparring match. Myra was a little on the back foot, but she'd only just returned to active duty back then. Who knows how strong she is now? Returned? What happened? Was Miss Myra injured? Lucy asked, puzzled. It's kind of complicated, Levy began, unsure where to start. But before she could explain, a shout rang out from the entrance, Ursa's back. The guild hall fell into an immediate hush. Those still tangled in the brawl scrambled back to their seats like well-trained soldiers. Natsu and Gray froze mid-fight, arms awkwardly locked in a grappling pose. Lucy turned, blinking at the imposing figure now standing in the doorway. A tall, red-haired knight walked in, effortlessly carrying a massive demonic horn over her shoulder. I'm back. Ursa said firmly. Is Master here? And where's Rhodes? Chapter 304, Don't get so close, it will kill you. Welcome back, Ursa. The Master and Rhodes went to attend the regular council meeting. Myra greeted her with a warm smile. By the way, what's with the giant horn? It's a souvenir. Ursa said proudly, holding it up like a trophy. I defeated a monster, and the villagers gave me its horn as thanks. She seemed quite fond of it, but then her gaze swept across the room, and darkened. Anyway, that's not important right now. I heard things got out of hand again while I was gone. Everyone involved in the earlier brawl instantly tensed. Natsu and Gray made awkward bird-like squawks, somewhere between a harpy and a panicked seagull. Ursa stared them down, one by one, scolding each of the troublemakers with the precision of a seasoned commander. Finally, she sighed, arms crossed. Forget it. I don't feel like dealing with you lot today. Lucy leaned toward Levy and whispered. Didn't she just deal with them? Levy gave her a tight, resigned smile. That's just how Ursa is. She wasn't exactly off the hook either. Her last mission had gotten her into a bit of trouble too. But the one who caused the biggest stir recently was definitely Kana. She'd gone drinking at a tavern and, realizing she didn't have enough money, had boldly charged the tab to the Magic Council. Ursa didn't dwell on it. She had more pressing matters. Technically, I should discuss this with Master Mikarev first, but since he's not here, I'll make the call. Natsu. Gray. I need your help for something important. You want them on a mission? The guild collectively gasped. Anyone thinking straight was instantly alarmed. Myra tilted her head thoughtfully. Ursa plus Natsu and Gray. Would that make them the strongest team in the guild? Huh? Kana raised an eyebrow at her. Aren't you and Rhodes the strongest team? Myra chuckled and waved her hand modestly. We don't count. I think Natsu and Gray together could probably beat me. Kana, who had been personally knocked out by Myra a few years back, had her doubts. But then she smirked. So you're saying Rhodes is on par with Ursa? I wonder how he would feel about that. I think he'd be pleased. Myra smiled fondly. Meanwhile, after selecting her candidates, Ursa paused and thought out loud. It would be safer if Myra joined us, but the guild needs someone to keep things from falling apart. No, the three of us will be enough. Her target this time was the Dark Guild Eisenwald. She needed to both confront them and uncover their motives, and in all honesty, partnering with Rhodes might have been easier. Anyway, we leave first thing tomorrow morning. Be ready. I'll explain the details on the way. Wait, we didn't even say yes. Natsu and Gray protested in unison. Their objections were, of course, completely ignored. If you're short on manpower. Myra chimed in helpfully. Why not consider a newcomer? Lucy's already close with Natsu. Maybe she can help keep the peace between him and Gray. Ursa turned to Lucy, now curious. So you're the one who defeated that rampaging guerrilla mercenary? Impressive. Sounds like you're a strong addition to the guild. Lucy blinked. Wait, I think you misunderstood something. Myra sighed. Somehow, no matter how many times she explained the situation, the story always ended up being retold in wildly different ways. The venue for the regular guild meeting hadn't changed, it was still the spacious villa on the outskirts of Crocus. Rhodes had been here before, so the setting didn't faze him at all. Not only was the place familiar, but many of the guild masters were as well. In fact, it was the guild masters who were most familiar with him. They were the ones who'd first started calling him the fairy strategist of the new era. Why does Fairy Tale always produce such outstanding young wizards? Many of them had grumbled, green with envy over Makarev's luck. Naturally, Makarev basked in their jealousy. As soon as they arrived, he didn't head straight to the guest rooms like the others. Instead, he proudly dragged Rhodes along, showing him off like a prized student. Rhodes had no choice but to go with it, politely greeting familiar faces like Master Goldmine of Quattro Cerberus, Master Bob of Blue Pegasus, and others. "Rhodes," saying Bob, still as flamboyant and overly affectionate as ever, so much so it sent shivers down Rhodes' spine. "I heard all about your last mission from Hibiki and the boys. You and Myra-chan really took good care of them." "It was nothing. Mr. Hibiki and the others were a huge help to us as well," Rhodes replied with modest grace. "Oh my. You're still so humble." Bob cooed, then turned to the girl beside him. "This is Jenny from our guild. Like Myra-chan, she's one of our top models, very popular." "Miss Jenny. It's been a while," Rhodes said politely. Long time no see," Jenny replied, forcing a polite smile. She clearly hadn't forgotten that black mark from their last encounter. Her jaw was tight, but she kept it together in front of the other masters. "So you already know each other? That's wonderful. I hope you two get along well." Once the pre-meeting banquet began, the atmosphere gradually loosened. Laughter and friendly chatter filled the air. Jenny took the seat next to Rhodes, arms crossed and expression sour. "So, are you really dating Myra-Jane?" "Yes," Rhodes answered honestly, though he couldn't quite understand the tone of resentment in her voice. "Was she a love rival?" Jenny huffed. "You just admit it like that? In public? Do you have any idea how badly dating news affects a model's popularity?" Rhodes nodded calmly. "By common sense, sure. Dating tends to affect popularity. But my relationship with Myra has been public for a long time now." He leaned back slightly, thoughtful. "She doesn't seem to care much about that stuff. And yet her popularity's still booming. Didn't she just hit #1 on the latest ranking chart?" Jenny felt as if an arrow had pierced straight through her chest. Why? Why was Myra's popularity rising instead of falling? And why did she have to take first place from her? Rhodes, ever unbothered, offered a casual idea. "Why don't you try dating too? I think Hibiki would be a good choice. Maybe if Hibiki were tied down, he'd stop walking around charming every woman in sight, including other people's girlfriends." Jenny's heart thudded unexpectedly at the suggestion. Of course Hibiki was good. More than good, he was practically the perfect boyfriend. She had only come to this routine meeting because she overheard Hibiki talking about Myra-Jane and Rhodes. And now, sitting here, she couldn't even explain to herself why she come. Maybe it was to boost her own visibility. Maybe it was curiosity about the so-called fairy strategist. Was he really the same guy who once tried to chuck an exploding magic crystal at her? Or maybe she just heard fairy tale mentioned and felt compelled to see someone from the guild. Jenny glanced at Rhodes, who was sitting about a meter away from her. "Hey. Just wondering, why are you sitting so far away from me?" Rhodes glanced at the space between them and replied evenly. "Not that far. About a meter, give or take. That's standard social distance." "Social distance?" Jenny tilted toward him in a deliberately seductive pose. "Come on. I'm a famous model. Don't you want to be a little closer?" They weren't strangers, after all. It wouldn't hurt to sit closer, right? Rhodes shook his head without hesitation. "No thanks. Like you said, this is a public setting. Best to keep our distance." He smiled politely. If someone snaps a picture of Myra-Jane's boyfriend cozying up with a famous model Jenny, well, people will die. "Oh?" Jenny leaned in just a bit more, a mischievous glint in her eye. "I heard Myra's recently resumed her demon form. Is that why you're scared?" Rhodes gave her a calm, almost pitying look. "No. I'm not worried about her hurting me. If anything like that got out, Myra wouldn't even get angry enough to kill me." He pointed subtly at the narrowing distance between them. "But you're the one leaning in. So if anyone's going to get obliterated, it's you." Jenny froze. "I can't keep chatting with this guy," she thought, already regretting everything. Chapter 305, There is a traitor in the council. The atmosphere at the luncheon banquet was cheerful and pleasant. Everyone chatted and laughed with ease, well, everyone except Jenny, who sat quietly, her mood clearly not matching the occasion. After a short break, the first session of the regular guild leaders meeting officially began. Presiding over the meeting this time was Sir Yuko, master of the guild Titan Nose. He was a rather unique-looking man, short and round-bodied, with stubby oval limbs and a large, comically round nose that dominated his face. He looked less like a person and more like a living, oversized doll. Rhodes had asked Master Makarov about him once and learned that Sir Yuko's unusual appearance came from his use of ball magic. Strange as it looked, ball magic was no joke. Sir Yuko was an undeniably powerful wizard. There really are all kinds of bizarre magic out there. Rhodes murmured to himself. Still, unless it granted instant invincibility, he had no plans to learn something that would make him look like a bouncing mascot. The meeting opened with a solemn tone. First of all, Sir Yoko began, bowing his head slightly. I owe you all an apology. Years ago, I expelled a man named Bora from my guild. I didn't expect that he would later fall so far, turning to slavery and committing such heinous crimes. A murmur rippled through the room. Sir Yoko continued, his voice filled with regret. This is entirely my failure. I should have ensured he was tracked and brought to justice much earlier. I want to thank Fairy Tail. If they hadn't captured Bora when they did, who knows how many innocent girls might have suffered. Bora, as Rhodes knew, was the imposter who had pretended to be the salamander in Harjan just a few days ago. Natsu and Lucy had been the ones to stop him, though in the process, they'd accidentally wrecked half the port. In light of that, Master Sir Yoko had even written a letter to the Magic Council to plead on Natsu's behalf. That gesture had likely helped keep Natsu out of hot water. Makarov chuckled and waved off the thanks, but the deepening wrinkles at the corners of his eyes revealed how proud he truly was. The other guild masters cast warm, approving looks in his direction. Fairy Tail, for all its chaos, really was a guild that came through when it mattered. They had a knack for solving other people's problems, even if they sometimes created new ones in the process. Still, it was progress. And it was their kind of progress. Rhodes felt a swell of pride. Complimenting Fairy Tail meant complimenting every member in it, including himself. With that, the meeting formally moved into its first major agenda item, the Dark Guild Grimoire Ironheart. It's been over 2 months since Mr. Rhodes first brought us intelligence on Grimoire Ironheart. One of the guild masters announced. Since then, the council has conducted multiple operations to locate and apprehend them. But every attempt has come up empty. He let that settle for a moment before continuing, frustration in his voice. Truth is, the council's teams haven't even caught a glimpse of them. It's as if Grimoire Ironheart knows exactly where we'll strike, vanishing without a trace each time. And now, they've completely disappeared from our radar. He paused grimly. There's growing concern that the council itself, specifically, the magical detention unit, may have been infiltrated by spies from a dark guild. A hush fell over the room. I propose that we, the guild masters, formally request a full internal investigation by the council. We need to expose the traitor leaking sensitive intel before it's too late. Rhodes felt a nervous chill run down his spine. Wait a second. They're not going to catch a spy from our guild by accident, are they? Of course. What made the situation even more complicated was that Mest himself didn't even realize he was a spy. The discussion among the guild masters continued. That the Magic Council, an institution tasked with upholding order and stability across the magical world, could be infiltrated by a dark guild, it was a serious and humiliating failure. There was talk of demanding public apologies from the current council members. Some even suggested that 1 or 2 of them should step down to take responsibility. But everyone knew that would only be for show. The real question was, is the current council even capable of investigating itself and restoring full operational control? The answer wasn't so simple. As powerful as the group gathered here was, their influence was limited. They only represented the Fiori Local Guild Alliance. There were countless other guild coalitions across the continent. Any large-scale reform or council restructuring would require coordination with other alliances, and that was no easy feat. For now, the only real hope lay in the council's own ability to root out the traitor. Still, everyone unanimously supported Master Sir Yoko's proposal. Sir Yoko would draft a formal letter tonight, and each guild master present would sign it, urging the council to begin an internal investigation immediately. Then, the topic shifted. While Grimoire Ironheart, one of the 3 pillars of the Bloom Alliance, has seemingly vanished, Sir Yoko said gravely. Another group, the Orishin Cease, has been showing signs of increased activity. We've received reports suggesting that even the core members of the Orishin Cease themselves are beginning to act. The details are still under investigation, but their presence alone is a serious concern. He paused, then continued with a note of urgency. One branch in particular, the Dark Guild Eisendwald, has been spotted operating in this area. It's clear they're preparing something, and it's unlikely to be anything good. Rhodes narrowed his eyes. He had heard the name Eisendwald before. Most notably, one of its members, Erriger. Back when Eisendwald had still been a legal guild, Erriger was one of their strongest. An S-class wizard and the former ace of the guild. But after their guild master was arrested, Erriger had gathered the remnants and aligned with the Bloom Alliance. A dark mage known for taking only assassination contracts, Erriger wielded a massive scythe and was feared for never failing a job. He was known in the underground as the Reaper. Definitely someone dangerous. Naturally, the issue of Eisendwald would be escalated to the council and flagged as a high-difficulty mission. If the message was sent to the council tonight, they'd likely receive a response the day after tomorrow. The method of distributing the mission would depend on the council's final classification. If the Eisenwald operation was designated as an S-class request, it would be sent out to all major guilds simultaneously. Whoever completed the mission first would receive the reward and recognition. If it was ranked below S-class, then the task would be assigned by lottery, like before. Of course, there was also the possibility that the Magic Council might decide to handle it themselves. After all, they were in desperate need of a win to restore some of their battered reputation. Rhodes quietly opened his notebook and jotted down today's key points. He recalled Master Makarov mentioning there was something important he wanted him to hear. Perhaps this was it. The increasing unrest caused by dark guilds like Eisenwald and the Arashinsis certainly felt urgent enough. Master Suryuko checked the time and frowned. It was already late in the evening. Starting the next agenda item now would drag the meeting deep into the night, and frankly, he wasn't a fan of overtime. "Let's wrap up here for today," he said, tapping his papers. "We'll resume with the remaining topics tomorrow." Rhodes snapped his notebook shut and turned to gently nudge Master Makarov awake. Makarov, ever the seasoned veteran of long, boring meetings, didn't jump or panic when woken. Instead, he rubbed his chin thoughtfully, his face taking on a wise, contemplative look, as if pondering the deep matters discussed that day. Of course, that was all for show. Anyone paying even a sliver of attention would have seen the snot bubble rising and falling from his nose since the 5th minute of the meeting. Jenny was one of those people who'd noticed. And now, comparing the dozing guild master with the calm, focused Rhodes, who had taken detailed notes and even offered the occasional insight, she couldn't help but wonder. Wait. Who's really the one in charge at Fairy Tale? Later that night, at the dinner banquet, Makarov, well rested from his long afternoon nap, was brimming with energy. The old man drank heartily, danced bizarrely in front of his fellow guild masters, and proudly bragged about Fairy Tale's newest member, Lucy. Unfortunately, the content of his bragging was entirely inappropriate. Rhodes, watching helplessly from the side, had to resist the urge to physically restrain his guild master. Just once, he thought. Just once, let me punch him. Chapter 306, Holding You in My Hands. The so-called strongest team departed the morning of the second day of the guild masters' meeting. As expected, Makarov had spent the entire meeting sound asleep. But that was fine. Anything important, Rhodes had written down. Later, he would summarize it and report to the master in full. If a situation arose where someone needed to speak on behalf of Fairy Tale, Rhodes would smoothly step in and claim it was Makarov's idea all along. Bringing Rhodes along had been the best decision Makarov ever made, and he would probably keep praising himself for it even in his dreams. The morning passed without incident, and soon Makarov was eagerly anticipating his favorite part of the day, lunch. He was looking forward to good food, a bit of wine, and bragging to the other guild masters, just like always. But today, something changed. Right at the peak of the lunchtime bustle, a small bird with a pointy wizard's hat flew into the banquet hall, clutching a letter in its claws. "Kai President. A letter from Ms. Mara Jane for you." The magical bird chirped. Huh? Makarov blinked drowsily. His brain wasn't fully awake yet. Rhodes smiled and waved the bird over. "Hey, little bee. Come have something to eat." The bird, Little Bee, was one of Mickey's magical companions. It often transformed into a microphone when she sang, so it had a strong bond with her. Rhodes, of course, was very familiar with it. "I want nuts," chirped Little Bee without hesitation. "There aren't any whole ones, but this cake has some peanut crumbs on top. You can have that." Rhodes slid over a slice of his dessert. Little Bee happily started pecking at the crumbs. Magical birds like it could eat both human food and typical bird feed, but like Happy who loved fish, Little Bee had a clear preference for nuts. "Thank you." It chirped and handed the envelope to Rhodes. Makarov's brain finally came back online. Wait a minute. Wasn't that letter meant for me? Between mouthfuls of cake, Little Bee responded. "Miss Mara Jane said if the president is drunk or asleep, just give it to Mr. Rhodes." Makarov had no retort. Honestly, that seemed fair. He began to wonder whether Myra had sent this message for something truly serious. Or if it was just a love letter. Rhodes opened the envelope and unfolded the letter, and instead of handwritten text, what appeared was a miniature magical projection of Mara Jane, hovering like a tiny figurine. Just seeing her instantly swept away the boredom and irritation Rhodes had been carrying for the last 2 days. But it also made him miss her even more. Little Myra began to speak in her usual gentle tone. "Master, and Rhodes, thank you for your hard work attending the routine meeting." Makarov beamed and immediately began showing her off to the nearby guild masters. "Feast your eyes, gentlemen. This is the pride and beauty of Fairy Tale, isn't she stunning?" A few less well-mannered attendees wore openly lecherous expressions. Rhodes gently adjusted the letter's angle and declared flatly. "Please show some respect. She's my girlfriend." He held the enchanted letter in both hands, as if carefully cradling Myra herself in his palms. Of course, the projection was just a magical recording. Myra couldn't hear them or respond. But her presence still lit up the room, and Rhodes's heart. The tiny projection of Myra kept speaking, animatedly acting out each line as she continued reading the message she had recorded. Actually, something very exciting happened while the master was away. Ursa, Natsu, and Gray have formed a team and gone out on a mission together. Beads of cold sweat immediately formed on Mikarov's forehead. What did she just say? It was as if his brain refused to process those words. Surely he was hearing them in a different language. Because Myra's projection continued sweetly. I think this might be the strongest team in the guild, so I wanted to share the good news with you. Good news? Mikarov began to tremble. The color drained from his face. This wasn't good news. This was a warning sign from the heavens. Everything's going well at the guild, so please keep working hard. That's all. She paused, then her cheeks flushed a little as she added in a bashful tone, oh. And one more thing for Rhodes, I miss you a little. Just a tiny bit. Each word was delivered with dramatic gestures and the cutest expressions possible. Her miniature figure whirled, puffed her cheeks, and made a tiny heart with her fingers. The moment Rhodes heard that last line, his heart melted into a puddle. As Myra's projection slowly faded away, he stared wistfully at the letter, not quite ready to let go. He clutched the enchanted paper gently, as if holding her in his hands. He decided then and there, he would treasure this letter, and take it out whenever he missed her. B. Rhodes said softly. Can I ask you to take a reply back for me later? No problem, chirped B, his beak deep in the cake that was nearly as big as he was. He had to fly home anyway, so carrying a letter wouldn't be a burden. Rhodes wanted to reply with a projection letter too, but realized he had no idea how to make one. Master, could you teach me how to write this kind of letter? Master? Master? He waved a hand in front of Mikarov's face. The old man was frozen solid, unmoving like a statue. A few seconds later, Mikarov tipped backward and collapsed dramatically, his eyes staring blankly at the ceiling. How? How could this happen? He gasped in disbelief. Those three together? They might really destroy an entire city. Master, are you alright? There's still hope. Makarov suddenly sprang to life. Rhodes, you're our only hope. You have to stop them. Stop them from what? Rhodes asked, exasperated. We don't even know what they're doing out there. How are we supposed to stop them? And just like that, the last glimmer of hope shattered. Mikarov clutched his head in despair. He was right, nobody even knew what the trio's mission was. They could be anywhere. The kingdom of Fiori was massive. We can't just sweep the whole country searching for them. Rhodes sighed. Seeing the despair written all over Makarov's face, Rhodes tried to offer some comfort. It's just a team-up. You don't have to be that pessimistic. I mean, Rhodes is actually pretty reliable, most of the time. You don't understand. Mikarov paced restlessly, his face pale. Those three together? They cause chain reactions. Catastrophic ones. We won't be back in Magnolia until tomorrow at the earliest. I just hope nothing goes wrong. But no matter how much he tried to convince himself, Mikarov couldn't shake the unease gnawing at him for the rest of the afternoon. He barely heard a word during the follow-up meeting and couldn't even nap properly. And then, it happened. Late that evening, while the guild masters were gathering for dinner in the banquet hall, the doors opened quietly, and Mara Jane walked in as if nothing was wrong. Master. Rhodes. Myra? You actually came? Rhodes's eyes lit up. He rushed over and instinctively took both of her hands in his. The truth was, they both wanted to hug each other. But with so many guild masters and wizards around, neither dared. Myra? Mikarov blinked in disbelief. Why are you here? Did something happen to the guild? Did it explode? Myra smiled. Relax, master. I came after work. And, well, I read Rhodes' reply and... Her cheeks turned pink. She didn't want to repeat the exact wording of his letter, it was too direct, too sweet. She had acted on impulse and rushed over. Rhodes reached up and gently brushed her cheek. You must have had a long journey. Thanks for coming. Their eyes met, and in that silent moment, Myra clearly read the message shining behind his gaze. It's so good to see you. Mara Jane. You really came all this way. Oh, Jenny. You're here too? Myra turned casually and gave Jenny a bright smile, her fingers still interlocked with Rhodes's. Say. Rhodes didn't bring any exploding magic crystals this time, did he? Why you? Jenny puffed up her cheeks in frustration. Kidding, Myra giggled. Alright, save the flirting and teasing for later. Mikarov waved his arms frantically. Tell me straight, what's going on with Ursa, Natsu, and Gray? Did they cause trouble again? Myra's response was simple and devastating. Yes. What? I originally took the train from Magnolia, but when I got to Oshibana Station, everything was shut down. And I heard the railway bridge over the Clover Grand Canyon was slightly damaged, too. She gave a helpless smile. I didn't get the full story, but I'd bet anything that it's their doing. Sounds like they stirred up quite the mess again. Mikro froze like he'd been hit by a bolt of lightning. They did it again. Wait. Then how did you get here? He asked desperately. And where are they now? Myra shot Rhodes a teasing glare. I flew the last stretch, of course. Didn't see them though, unfortunately. No, I saw them. Rhodes interrupted, his tone turning serious. They're nearby. He glanced out toward the open window, his expression sharpening. And there's an uninvited guest with them. Chapter 307, Lullaby. The security at the Guild Masters Conference was non-existent, to be honest. Sure, most of the Guild Masters were powerful mages, especially Makarov, who was practically a one-man army when sober, but the man was currently riding a high from drinks and naps. That hardly inspired confidence. So, Rhodes took it upon himself to play backup security. He released extra summoned beasts to patrol the surrounding area. Since the meeting was being held in the forests outside Clover Town, wild creatures like wolves, birds, and even giant crabs wouldn't raise suspicion. They just blended in with the local environment. And it was through the eyes of two summoned crabs that Rhodes spotted something alarming. A man wrapped in bandages was speeding through the forest in a magic-powered vehicle. Behind him were Urza, Natsu, and Gray, in hot pursuit. More importantly, the bandaged man bore the Eisenwald Guild emblem, the same dark guild they discussed the day before. Master. Rhodes said quickly. Have you ever seen a weird staff that looks like a gnarled branch? With a three-eyed skull on it? Before Makarov could answer, Master Bob from Blue Pegasus nearly dropped his drink. What did you say? Rhodes repeated. A staff or wand with a three-eyed skull. That's not a wand. Bob said grimly. That's a flute. And if your description is right, that's Lullaby, Zeref's cursed flute. What? You mean the one that can kill everyone who hears its music? Wasn't that thing sealed away by the Magic Council? The news exploded through the banquet hall like wildfire. Several guild masters rose to their feet in shock. The younger mages who had come to observe the meeting were visibly frightened. Are you saying he plans to use that here? Myra gasped. At the guild masters meeting? Even Rhodes was rattled. How insane would someone have to be to try that? He stood up, eyes sharp. I'll stop him. But Makarov raised a hand to stop him. No. You go support Urza. Leave this one to me. Now everything clicked. Urza must have discovered Eisenwald's plan and immediately recruited Natsu and Gray to intercept them, charging forward before the council even issued a formal request. Taking on Eisenwald with just 3 people. Yep. Classic Urza. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, Urza, Natsu, Gray, and Lucy were charging full speed ahead. Happy had long since run out of magic and was now limp in Lucy's arms like a tired plush toy. They'd learned that Kageyama, a member of Eisenwald, intended to use Lullaby to kill every guild master at the summit. They couldn't allow that to happen. Not while Rhodes and Makarov were there. They sprinted through the trees like lightning, hearts pounding. Suddenly, Natsu came to an abrupt halt. Lucy, caught off guard, slammed into his back, flattening poor Happy between them. What? Happy squealed. What? Natsu? Lucy gasped. Before she could react, Mirza collided into her from behind, and Gray followed, crashing into the pile. They all tumbled into a tangled heap. Ow! Lucy groaned as she sat up, rubbing the back of her head. Gray, more hot-headed than anyone in the group, exploded first. Why did you stop so suddenly, you idiot? But Mirza remained calm. She glanced ahead and noticed a familiar large crab lurking near the path. A small smile tugged at her lips. No need to panic, she said softly. There's someone here who always puts us at ease. Hey. Natsu grinned, flashing his teeth. That guy always shows up at just the right time. Sure enough, Rhodes stepped out casually from the side of the trail, arms folded. Did someone just say I was handsome behind my back? Myra waved at the group, her expression bright. Looks like everyone's full of energy. All 4 of them blinked in surprise. Mr. Rhodes? And even Miss Myra is here? Lucy exclaimed. Myra smiled sweetly. You've really made the master worry, you know. Rhodes glanced sideways at her. Wasn't it you who told him about this in the first place? Natsu, Gray, and Lucy suddenly looked a little guilty, rubbing the backs of their necks or avoiding eye contact. Mirza snapped back to focus. This isn't the time to chat. He's still getting away. We need to stop him. No need. Rhodes said calmly, waving a hand. The master said he's going to take care of it himself. But that flute uses deadly curse magic. Lucy protested. If he plays even a single note, even the master could be in danger. Have a little faith in the old man. Rhodes replied, his voice firm. Myra smiled knowingly. You're the one who has the least confidence in him, aren't you? She had seen him earlier, quietly recalling every summoned beast patrolling the forest and stationing them around the clearing. I'm just being cautious. Rhodes said with a shrug. To him, Makarov wasn't just a guild master. He was family. And there was no way he was going to let anything happen to him. Right now, 4 Krugs were lying in wait beneath Kageyama's and Makarov's feet. A dozen raptors perched silently in nearby trees. 6 merc wolves prowled invisibly among the stones and shadows. The moment Kageyama so much as breathed into that cursed flute, they would all pounce and tear him apart before he could finish the first note. The group crept forward a little more and saw 2 figures crouching behind some tall bushes. Master Goldmine and Master Bob were clearly hiding in ambush. Mirza started to greet them, but Bob raised a finger to his lips to signal silence. Then he gestured for them to come closer. Mirza-chan, you look like you've grown taller, said Master Bob, fluttering his lashes with a smile. President Bob. Mirza greeted, her posture stiff. The nighttime setting made her feel a little awkward around Blue Pegasus's eccentric master. Lucy, seeing Bob for the first time, leaned closer to Rhodes and whispered, confused. Wait. She? He? Are they? It's a man. Rhodes replied without missing a beat. Then he added with a sigh. And why are you holding your skirt like that all of a sudden? That's because. Lucy glanced nervously at the giant crab behind her, clearly uncomfortable. Rhodes shot Myra a sharp look. So this is your fault. Now she thinks I'm some creep who peeks under skirts. Myra only giggled behind her hand, clearly amused. Alright, quiet down and pay attention. Master Goldmine said, nodding toward the scene unfolding ahead. Just a little ways off, Kageyama stood facing Makarov, speaking in a slow, deliberate tone. I want to play a song for you, he said. For a long time, Kageyama had believed that it was the legal guilds that forced them into the shadows. Those so-called righteous mages, always looking down on others despite their own incompetence. They paraded around, high and mighty, while guilds like Isendwald were driven into darkness. But now, with Lullaby in hand, he believed things could change. He could erase those smug faces, destroy everything they stood for, and even reshape the magic world. Once the flute was played, everything would be different. Everything would begin again. Kageyama brought the flute to his lips. His hands trembled. Sweat began to bead on his forehead. When he had been breaking the seal, there was no time for second thoughts. When he had fought with all his might, he didn't have time to question himself. But now, the flute was in his hand. The target of his hatred stood right in front of him. All he had to do was blow. And yet, he froze. Could something as small as this flute really change the world? Lullaby cursed all who heard its melody. That was its power. But then, what about the one who played it? What would happen to him? Chapter 308, Myra, who do you want to kill? Kageyama didn't blow the flute in the end. Even though Lullaby was already at his lips, Makarov made no move to stop him. He simply looked him in the eyes and spoke, his voice calm but firm. Nothing will change. Kageyama's eyes widened in shock. Had the old man seen through his thoughts? Or did he already know their purpose from the start? Makarov gazed at the young man before him with a mixture of sternness and compassion. The weak will always be weak. That's the truth of it. But weakness isn't something to be ashamed of. Humans are fragile creatures by nature. That's why we form guilds. That's why we seek partners. Because we're anxious and uncertain, we come together, support one another, and move forward together. Clumsy people might stumble more often. They might take the long road, hit more walls. But as long as they believe in tomorrow and take one step forward, strength will follow. They'll find the courage to smile, even when it hurts. Makarov pointed at the cursed flute. You don't need something like that to become strong, do you? Kageyama listened quietly, the weight of the moment pressing down on him like a mountain. It was the first time anyone had spoken to him like this. His past had been filled with nothing but resentment. Resentment toward the Magic Council, toward the legal guilds, toward the world that cast them aside. Even today, his so-called comrades had tried to silence him when he used his magic to help Fairy Tail disable the wind barrier. No one had ever tried to guide him. Not until this very moment. Not while he held a cursed item. Not while he stood on the brink of murder. Was this the spirit of a legal guild? Was this the heart of one of the 10 wizard saints? His hands trembled. The flute slipped from his fingers and fell to the ground with a dull thud. Kageyama dropped to his knees. I lost, he said softly. Makarov smiled, warmth returning to his features. Looks like there's still hope for you. Oh. Master. Old man. A chorus of cheers rang out as Risa, Natsu, Gray, Lucy, and the others rushed toward Makarov. That was so cool, Gramps. Natsu laughed, crouching beside him and playfully patting the master's head. Risa threw her arms around him, eyes sparkling with emotion. You really are amazing. I'm so touched I could cry. From the side, Rhodes heard a faint thunk and turned to see Meyer chuckling quietly. Apparently, even Risa's affection could come with a punch. Master, wasn't that a little too risky? Rhodes said, approaching. Wouldn't it have been safer to knock him out with one hit? Makarov rubbed the back of his head, still smiling. Sometimes, guiding a lost youth back to the right path is the most important job for us old-timers. The word struck deep in Kageyama's heart. Am I someone who deserves to be saved? He asked, voice trembling. It's exactly people like you who need saving. Makarov said gently, placing a hand on his back. Repent. Reflect. You still have a long road ahead of you. Suddenly, a harsh voice interrupted. You're so annoying. Everyone turned. The lullaby flute, which had just been discarded, began to glow. A strange, eerie smoke hissed out from the skull's mouthpiece. They're all trash. In that case, I'll just... Boom. Without hesitation, Rhodes activated his mountain dragon claw and slammed a fist straight into the flute. He wasn't the type to stand around quietly and wait for the enemy to finish transforming. Rumble. The ground shattered beneath the blow, spiderweb cracks spreading out in all directions. Everyone felt the earth tremble beneath their feet. Why a punch? And why is it so strong? Lucy gaped. I thought Mr. Rhodes was a summoning mage known for his strategies and planning. Aye, said Happy, nodding sagely. That's true. But half the guild has been punched by him at some point. Of course, they had all punched him back too. But with Myra nearby, Happy thought it best not to say anything bad about Rhodes. Kageyama, who had been closest to the flute, was yanked to safety by Makarov and set aside like a misbehaving child. He looked pale and shell-shocked, thinking that punch had been meant for his face. You insolent creature. The voice came from deep within the pit where the flute had been struck. Rhodes raised his fist again and threw another punch. This time, the target vanished. The flute dissolved into dark smoke and drifted across the forest, reassembling about 100 meters away. The swirling smoke condensed into a monstrous form. Its upper body resembled twisted, dead tree bark, towering high above the treetops, larger than the villa itself. I'm starving. I will devour your souls. The smoke at its base also solidified, revealing Lullaby's complete form, a grotesque, 20-meter-tall tree-like demon. As it rose, a fierce wind howled across the forest, and its overwhelming size cast a deep shadow over the entire area. The overwhelming pressure made everyone freeze. Back in the villa, several of the guild masters who had stayed behind were rattled. Should we go out and help? Are you nuts? Something that big is demon level. I say, we run. It's fine. Makarov is still out there. Despite the tension, Lucy couldn't resist pointing something out. Wait a minute. Doesn't its face look off? Like it's been caved in or something? Aye. Happy whispered. I think Rhodes already punched it once. Lullaby, who had just finished delivering its supposedly terrifying one-liner, paused mid-pose and slowly turned its glowing eyes toward Lucy, clearly offended by the comment. Ah! Lucy squealed, immediately hugging Happy like a plush toy. But the monster didn't linger on her. Its glare shifted to the real threat. It stared down Rhodes, the one it hated most of all. How dare you defy me? I'll start by devouring your soul. Before Lullaby could take another breath, a blast of dark energy slammed into its face. The explosion engulfed half its towering form in a blazing flare. Mara Jane had already taken on her Satan soul form, her demonic wings spread wide. Her right hand pulsed with a newly formed magic bullet, while her left arm was extended protectively in front of Rhodes. Her normally sweet expression was now icy cold as she spoke with quiet fury. Whose soul did you say you were going to eat? Lucy clung tightly to Happy, her voice trembling. It's Miss Myra. In that terrifying form again. That's Satan's soul. Happy explained proudly. She could take out 100 Lucy's. Don't compare me like that. Fine, then just 99 of us. Are you saying even you're stronger than me? Aye, sir. Lucy pulled on his cheeks in frustration. You want to test that right now? Off to the side, Rhodes chuckled. These two really have no sense of tension at all. But his gaze returned to Myra, pride flickering in his eyes. My Myra is incredible. And I don't even appreciate her. He stepped forward. Summon, Blue Sentinel. Brambleback. 2 glowing blue constructs and 2 crimson, thorny tree beasts burst from shimmering portals. Rhodes raised both hands, casting blue buff and red buff, one to himself, the other to Myra. Myra gave him a rare smile in return. In her Satan soul form, even that smile looked dangerous, like a poppy blooming in a snowfield, deadly and beautiful all at once. "Let's join in too," Mirza shouted, switching into her Heaven's Wheel armor. She gripped only 2 swords this time, her magic reserves were low. Rhodes noticed immediately and gave a nod. 1 blue sentinel and 1 brambleback redirected their buffs to Mirza, while the others empowered Grey and Natsu. President Goldmine, watching the fierce group ready themselves, raised his voice in warning. "Be careful. That creature isn't just big. He's a demon from the Book of Zeref, a living spell." "A demon?" Mirza's smile didn't falter. "We've beaten one of those before." Chapter 309, The Iron Wall of the Mountain Dragon. He summoned 4 monsters at once. Lucy gasped, stunned. Considering how massive and powerful those monsters were, she couldn't imagine how anyone could maintain that many summons at the same time. Happy pointed at the battlefield. "You're so slow, Lucy. It's 6, not 4. Can't you count the crabs?" Lucy didn't even bother replying. She just looked away. Natsu, feeling his magic surge back from the buff, clenched his fists. "Oh yeah. This feels awesome. Wait, why do Myra and Rhodes get double buffs, and Grey and I only get 1 each?" "There aren't enough to go around," said Rhodes, stretching his neck. "You guys can deal with it. Myra and I are taking the lead. Take over, Mountain Dragon Soul." With a nod to each other, Rhodes and Myra launched forward. Earthy brown dragon wings and jet black demon wings cut through the air as the 2 soared together like twin projectiles. "Die!" Lullaby roared, firing a barrage of dark magic bullets. Dozens of glowing orbs came raining down like machine gun fire. Rhodes and Myra weaved through the storm with expert precision, gliding and spinning in tandem. Occasionally, they even bumped into each other midair to help redirect or dodge, working in perfect sync. Are those things coming toward us?" Some of the guild masters panicked. Not all of them were used to frontline combat. Lucy looked just as terrified. "Happy. Fly me out of here. We're out of magic, and besides, there's no need," Happy said with a calm shrug. "We'll be fine." He was right. Between Mirza, Grey, the summoned beasts, and the buffs, they had solid defense. Just as the bullets rained down, a blue sentinel stepped forward and raised its arms to shield Lucy and Happy, tanking every hit with ease. The other blue sentinel and both bramblebacks formed a protective line around the guild leaders, covering both the panicked and the calm. The golems were barely scratched, and while the tree beasts were slightly damaged, they quickly regenerated. Grey cast ice shields rapidly, each one thick and seamless. Mirza, in her armor, adjusted mid-formation with incredible timing, protecting the others between slashes. The guild leaders looked on with awe. Such control. What speed. They're still kids. And then came the real hit. Rhodes and Myra reached Lullaby, fists blazing with magical energy. Together, they smashed the demon right in the jaw. Lullaby's head snapped back, and the 2 magic bullets still lodged in its mouth exploded, sending smoke billowing from its ears and nose. Then its entire colossal body lifted off the ground and slammed into the forest with a tremendous crash. Trees shattered, dirt flew, and the earth shook as if an earthquake had hit. That thing was sent flying. They knocked it down with just 1 punch each? Wait, aren't they mages? What kind of wizard fights like that? This is Mara Jane the demon and Rhodes the fairy strategist. Okay, sure, demon Mara Jane makes sense. But what kind of strategist runs straight into the front lines throwing punches? Mikrev beamed with pride as his old friends praised the young generation. Nothing better than listening to others brag about your kids. Lullaby groaned and tried to lift itself back up. But before it could even fully rise, Natsu rocketed toward it, twisting in midair and slamming a flaming kick into its face. Fire Dragon's Claw. Lullaby's massive body began to lean and stagger under the barrage. Across from him, Grey cracked his knuckles and readied his stance. Ice Make, Lancer. Dozens of razor-sharp ice spears surged forth, all aimed at the opposite side of Lullaby's face. Oddly, each icy spear shimmered with a faint red flame. Whoa! The spears struck with explosive force, shaking Lullaby and ironically keeping him upright, propping his head up in the most brutal way possible. "Requip, Purgatory Armor," Mirza called out, feeling her magic power restored thanks to Rhodes' support. She switched into her fearsome black and scarlet armor, her dual jagged swords blazing with fire. Purgatory Shatter. She leapt behind Lullaby and slashed both swords downward in a brutal arc. The back of the demon's skull dented under the strike, reverberating with a crunch that made even the spectators wince. Lullaby's head was practically yanked forward by the blow, like Mirza had forced the giant monster to do a sit-up against its will. And right in front of that perfectly exposed position. Roar of the Mountain Dragon. Rhodes unleashed a furious storm of swirling, Jagged earth from his mouth. Soul extinction. Myra roared alongside him, her palms launching a devastating wave of dark purple and black energy. The two attacks, raw, destructive, and overwhelming, collided as they struck, merging midair into a devastating fusion of mountain magic and demon energy. Lullaby's upper body was consumed in the blast, engulfed in light and force. Arg! Lullaby's scream echoed across the mountain. The ground beneath him shattered from the force, caving in and forming a massive circular crater with jagged fissures reaching outward from the epicenter. Whoa! Lucy stood frozen, eyes wide with awe. That was incredible. The coordination, the power. I've never seen anything like it. She had fought alongside them briefly, but seeing them cut loose in sync like this, it was on another level. Rhodes, though, didn't look satisfied. He glanced at Myra beside him. In his mind, he knew they could go further. He had read about Unison Raid, the ultimate combination of magic where two wizards' hearts and auras synchronized to create a single, merged spell. This wasn't that. But it was getting close. At least their magic didn't cancel each other out. That was a start. It's not over yet. Natsu yelled from below. Gray. Hit me. Gray didn't question it. He instantly threw a punch, because whether or not Natsu had a plan, punching him was always satisfying. But then, to everyone's shock, Natsu leaned forward and bit down on Gray's fist. Hey! Let go already. That's gross. Gray shouted, trying to yank his hand back. Hey, thanks for the snack. Natsu grinned. He wasn't interested in Gray's punch, he had bitten down just to devour the flame still clinging to it. Flames of slightly different colors ignited in both of Natsu's hands. Raising them overhead, he declared, left flame, right flame, merge and become one. Wait, you moron. That's a venue for the regular meeting. Rhodes shouted in alarm. He recognized this move. Its power wasn't something to take lightly. Flipping midair, Rhodes shouted back. Myra, launch me down. Got it. Myra curled her legs and, with both feet, kicked Rhodes' soles downward like a rocket. Rhodes plummeted like a meteor. The moment he hit the ground, Natsu unleashed his magic. Fire dragons. Brilliant flame. Mountain dragons. Iron wall. A torrent of fire surged from between Natsu's hands, engulfing Lullaby in a blazing inferno. The intense heat rushed outwards, threatening to scorch everything in its path. But at the same moment, a circle of towering stone walls burst up from the earth, summoned by Rhodes. The walls rose quickly and firmly, enclosing Lullaby and leaving only a single open gap. Facing Natsu's direction. Did Rhodes just pull that off? Even Makarov was astonished. When did he master such a technique? What incredible earth magic! One of the guild masters exclaimed. Is he related to Jura of the Rock Iron tribe or something? Though Natsu's flames couldn't breach the walls, they were captured and redirected inward by the stone circle, concentrating the heat at the center. In other words, Rhodes hadn't just saved the regular meetings venue. He'd turned the battlefield into a giant oven with Lullaby trapped inside. Chapter 310, My girlfriend has three eyes. Lullaby howled in agony, thrashing inside the massive stone oven. It slammed its massive head against the wall several times, until finally collapsing with a thunderous crash, unable to rise again. All around, the summoned beasts on patrol flickered and vanished one after another. Rhodes released his magic, staggered slightly, and collapsed to the ground, panting for breath. Myra flew over, landing gently beside him and reverting to her normal form. She didn't say a word, just smiled, ignored his outstretched hand, and walked around to hug him tightly from behind. Rhodes, caught off guard, simply melted into the embrace. It was warm. Soft. Peaceful. He wasn't in a hurry to get back up. Ah. Natsu laughed boisterously at the smoldering crater they just left in the demon's face, only to get clocked on the head by Gray. Ow! That hurt. Natsu growled, spinning around. You wanna fight, Ice Cube? Oh? So that type of flame actually hurts you more than usual? Gray said with a curious glance at the red glow still pulsing around his hand. He'd felt it during their fight with Lullaby, now confirmed by punching Natsu in the head. Before Natsu could come up with a witty comeback, Gray folded his arms and barked. You've got some nerve laughing. If Rhodes hadn't been here, your overkill flames would have burned down the entire meeting venue. Natsu paused, then smacked his fist into his palm. Oh yeah. So when did Rhodes learn that crazy strong earth magic? Next time, I'm gonna blow the whole thing up with him. You absolute moron. Gray groaned, pinching the bridge of his nose. Still. Natsu muttered, tapping his chin. Those attacks Rhodes used, fists, roars. Doesn't it all seem like Dragon Slayer magic? Gray didn't even look at him. How would I know? You're the Dragon Slayer here, not me. But Natsu remembered clearly, just days ago, Rhodes had shown him that massive mountain dragon. It would actually make sense if Rhodes learned Dragon Slayer magic from it. Mountain Dragon Slayer magic? A new element added to the guild's growing legacy. The thought made Natsu grin. He definitely wanted to spar with him soon. Urza, now back in her standard armor, spoke up. Let's save the chit-chat. We should check on Lullaby. They made their way toward the stone wall. The section Rhodes had left open led them into the scorched battlefield. There, they watched as Lullaby's monstrous form slowly dissolved into a dark mist, shrinking and coalescing until only the original flute remained, the twisted, three-eyed skull resting ominously on the ground. But it was a wreck. The flute's skull face was caved in, teeth missing, its sides cracked and scorched. Even the mouthpiece had jagged edges. If anyone tried to play this cursed instrument now, the only thing it would emit was a wheeze. Natsu crouched, picked it up, and gave it a shake. What do we do with this? Roast it? Gray swatted his hand. Don't mess around. This kind of cursed artifact should be handed over to the Magic Council for sealing. Urza nodded. That's standard protocol. But since the master's here, we'll leave the decision to him. I'm not so sure we should give it to the council. Rhodes said as he and Myra approached. At least. Not directly. The peaceful countryside was nice, but Rhodes still had serious matters weighing on his mind. Based on the discussions at the regular meeting, there was now a strong possibility that a traitor existed within the Magic Council. This cursed flute, Lullaby, was supposed to be sealed away by the council. Its reappearance could not be explained by simple negligence. It was far more likely that someone on the inside deliberately released it, either to test the power of a demon from the Book of Ziraf or to draw attention away from other Dark Guild activity, possibly even to shift focus onto Grimoire Ironheart. If they returned it directly, there was a real chance it might someday be repaired and unleashed again. That alone made the situation far more dangerous. Natsu's hand flared with flames. All the more reason we should burn it now. No. Rhodes raised a hand and stopped him. You guys caused a panic at the station, collapsed the railway bridge over the canyon, and attacked a Dark Guild without formal authorization. With each word Rhodes said, the flame in Natsu's hand dimmed noticeably. Even Urza and Gray, who usually kept a firm stance, lowered their heads slightly, unable to meet his eyes. If we don't keep this flute as evidence, the council might decide to pin everything on you. Rhodes continued, half serious, half sarcastic. If they're embarrassed by this mess, they could shift blame to you all just to save face and reassert their authority. What worried Rhodes even more was that the council's inner traitor might use this incident to deal a blow to Fairy Tail. He was particularly suspicious of those two council members who seemed to have it out for their guild. Why did they always target Fairy Tail? What had they ever done? Well, aside from frequent property damage, public brawling, streaking down the street, borrowing drinking money from the council's funds, and maybe hitting on a councilor's granddaughter. Rhodes paused. Okay, maybe they did give people reasons. But we still have to ensure this flute never regains its power. He concluded. And we need it as proof of what happened. Myra stepped forward and held out her hand to Natsu. In that case, leave it to me. Having just been scolded, Natsu handed over the flute to Myra without protest. Urza tilted her head slightly. Wait. That flute is a demon too, right? Don't tell me you're planning to take over it? But wouldn't it disappear if you absorbed it? Gray asked, confused. No, this is different. Myra explained as she examined the cracked skull flute in her hand. I will only absorb part of its power. As long as I take away the core ability, its deadly curse magic, the main body will remain, just without the means to harm anyone again. Lullaby trembled slightly. How could anyone in this world take over a demon? She might not care about her own safety, but I still wanted to live. If they just sealed him again, there was always a chance he could escape someday. But if he were stripped out of his powers, that would be the end. No more chances. No more second lives. Lullaby tried to resist, but the battle had already drained nearly all his strength. His smoke-like body began to rise again, trying to form its monstrous shape one last time. But the soft radiance of Myra's magic washed over him. The smoke dissolved harmlessly, and the eerie glow in his three purple-black eyes faded away, leaving the skull mask lifeless. Take over, Demon Lullaby. Myra's body shone with magic as she transformed. She now wore a rough-spun brown dress, the shoulders etched with strange, glowing violet-blue tribal markings. Her wrists were wrapped with coarse twine-like charms, and she stood barefoot on the ground as if connected to something ancient and primal. A carved wooden devil mask, with 3 ominous eye sockets, rested over her face. She looked like a mysterious princess from some long-forgotten jungle tribe. Myra twirled in place, the hem of her skirt and her waist sash trailing behind her in elegant arcs. Faint, mystical patterns ran down her legs to match the ones on her shoulders. Then, She pushed the mask up so it rested only on her forehead, revealing her usual warm smile. She winked toward her friends, especially at Rhodes. "Well? What do you think?" "You look beautiful," Rhodes said honestly, then added with a chuckle. "Though I can't really tell if this is takeover magic or just you doing a costume change." Myra gave him a playful smirk. "It's definitely takeover. And don't get scared later." With that, she adjusted the mask again, pushing it all the way to the top of her head. Suddenly, an eye opened on her forehead. The third eye was seamlessly embedded into her skin, perfectly matching the upper socket of the mask. A faint, pulsing glow emanated from it. "My girlfriend just turned into pudding from one piece?" Rhodes blinked, surprised, but not displeased. Sure, others might find it creepy, but he actually thought it looked kind of cool. Myra noticed his reaction and gave a tiny smug hum. Is this guy just weird? Or does he really love me that much? Rose admired the new look with genuine appreciation. The outfit suits you. But more importantly, did it work? Chapter 311, Travel Safe. It worked. Want to see what it can do? Myra offered the flute to Urza for safekeeping. Urza looked puzzled. How do you demonstrate a curse spell, exactly? Myra smiled. Because what I gained wasn't just the curse. I'll try it out. It's not dangerous. Hold on. Rhodes leaned in and whispered something to her. Myra's cheeks turned red. She raised her hand and gave him a light smack on the arm. She knew exactly what Rhodes was worried about. So, to reassure him and everyone else, she temporarily cancelled the takeover. Her appearance returned to normal, showing clearly that it was still her. Then she reactivated Lullaby's takeover again. There. Satisfied? She huffed, glaring at him. It was such a simple fix, why did he have to ask such an embarrassing question? Rhodes shook his head seriously. Nope. What if Lullaby used transformation magic to trick us? Natsu blinked, completely lost. Urza gave Rhodes a nod of approval for his caution, while Gray muttered that the creepy flute probably didn't have enough brains for that kind of deception. Myra rolled her eyes at him. He was a takeover wizard too, how could he not tell the difference between takeover and transformation? Left with no choice, Myra leaned close and whispered something into his ear. Her cheeks were burning. Rhodes grinned, satisfied. Okay. I'm convinced now. The others braced themselves for the demo. Though, in truth, there wasn't much bracing needed. Myra cleared her throat and began to sing a simple melody. Soft, open syllables like a singer warming up. Even with just a few notes, her voice was beautiful, calm and melodic, with a peaceful undertone. But beauty wasn't the real issue. The moment the sound drifted through the air, everyone around her suddenly started yawning. Their eyelids drooped, and a wave of drowsiness washed over them. Lucy and Happy, who had just wandered into the edge of the crater to watch, collapsed to the ground immediately, snoring softly. Urza, Natsu, and Gray were fighting to keep their eyes open, but because Myra stopped singing just in time, they managed to stay awake. Rhodes, however, wasn't as lucky. Myra had clearly aimed that last note right at him. He swayed on the spot. Then collapsed face first with his eyes shut. Myra quickly stepped forward and caught him in her arms. Cradling him gently, she used her free hand to ruffle his hair, tug on his ears, and pinch his cheeks playfully. I told you not to ask. I told you not to be so suspicious. I told you not to be so annoying. Rhodes remained limp and quiet in her embrace, completely unresponsive. Urza massaged her temple and let out a sigh. That's some serious magic power. It feels like Miss Togen's sleep spell. Myra chuckled. Well, it is Lullaby. This is how it was always meant to be used. And if it were cast on an enemy? They'd never wake up. Gray muttered. Myra's getting scarier and scarier. He glanced over at Natsu, who had fought like a maniac earlier, and then at Rhodes, who now summoned armies of monsters and had powerful earth magic. Even Myra's abilities had taken a huge step forward. If I get chosen for the S-Class trial this year, and I end up against any of them. Gray clenched his fists. If I don't work harder, I'll be left behind. Looking down at Rhodes' helpless form, he asked with some concern. Is Rhodes okay? Myra smiled softly. He's fine. His magic's just completely drained. That's why he was so easily affected. She brushed his hair again. Let him sleep for a while. Though she said that, her hands didn't stop. By now, Rhodes' hair was a tousled mess, and his face had been poked and prodded into a faint pink. Gray hesitated for a moment before asking. Is that really the case? Myra nodded confidently. Of course it is. With that, Gray fell silent. It's a couple thing, he thought. They can mess around however they want. It's not like she'll actually hurt him or anything. Still, one question lingered in his mind. How exactly did Rhodes fall in love with Myra in the first place? It's not like he didn't already know what she was like before. Ahahaha. Rhodes is so lame. Natsu was grinning from ear to ear. A small flame flickered to life in his palm. Want me to wake him up with this? Myra shook her head. No. That would hurt him. Then how about I just singe his bangs a little? No. Myra replied firmly, brushing a hand through Rhodes' messy hair. I like his hairstyle the way it is. The fire in Natsu's hands sputtered out. Fine. Let me squish his face a bit, then. Myra wrapped her arms around Rhodes protectively. Nope. He's mine. So stingy. Natsu muttered, crossing his arms and sulking like a kid. Gray patted him on the shoulder. Come on. Go check on Lucy and Happy. Oh. Right, Lucy. Natsu's eyes lit up. He jogged over, crouched beside her, and gave her cheek a gentle poke. How should I tease her this time? He thought, as a mischievous grin spread across his face and flames returned to his hands. But just as he was about to act, Lucy murmured something in her sleep. Fairy tale. I like it the most. Natsu froze, staring at the peaceful smile on her lips. His grin softened into something far gentler. He quietly placed Happy in Lucy's arms, then carefully lifted her up, cradling her in his arms like a princess. Meanwhile, Myra had finished smoothing out Rhodes' hair and was now holding him the same way, gently and without a trace of hesitation. Mirza watched the two couples, Myra with Rhodes, and Natsu with Lucy, then turned her gaze slowly to Gray. Gray noticed and immediately broke into a cold sweat. Why are you looking at me like that? Mirza stretched out her arms eagerly. Should I carry you out too? Gray's face turned bright red. And no thanks. I can walk just fine. Mirza gave a disappointed sigh, visibly let down. Myra gave Mirza a mischievous suggestion. Just knock Gray out and carry him back. Gray's eyes widened in alarm. Hey, don't give her weird ideas. But Mirza's expression lit up with realization. Ah. That could work. Wait. No, it couldn't. Gray shouted, already backing away. With panic in his eyes, he turned on his heel and bolted. There's no way Mirza's got any kind of romantic reason for this, he thought frantically. She just wants to match Myra and Natsu. But even so, the idea of being knocked out and slung over Mirza's shoulder like a sack of potatoes was too humiliating to bear. He could already picture Natsu laughing at him for an entire year. Thankfully, Mirza didn't chase after him. A moment later, Gray came running up to Makarov and ducked behind him for cover. What's going on? The old master asked, raising an eyebrow. Gray straightened up and tried to act cool. Nothing. Lullaby's been dealt with. I just came to check in and ask what you want us to do next. Makarov's face lit up. Seal it up and hand it over to the council. You kids did a fantastic job this time. He was beaming with pride. His guildmates had done so well, and now he could hold his head high in front of the other guild masters. As for Lullaby, after the beating it just took, Makarov doubted the cursed flute would be a threat ever again. Master. Mirza said as she arrived, handing him the cracked flute. This is for you. Thank you. Good work. Makarov said, accepting it. He planned to deliver both the flute and Kageyama to the council himself. He looked over at Rhodes, Lucy, and Happy, all asleep. And those three? They're fine. Myra reassured him. Just asleep. Makarov studied Rhodes' face for a second. Is he really asleep, or just knocked out? He decided not to ask. Come on in. There are some spare rooms, get a good rest. But Myra shook her head. Thank you, Master. But we're heading back tonight. Huh? Why the rush? I didn't let anyone know I was coming. Myra explained softly. She looked at Makarov, then down at Rhodes in her arms, and finally over to Ursa. With the four of us gone, the guild might be in chaos. Makarov broke into a cold sweat. He thought about Fairy Tale. Without Ursa, Myra, Rhodes, or Natsu around. He gave a dry laugh, eyes wide with sudden fear. Right. Very good point. Travel safe. Chapter 312, This is my room. They said they'd leave that night, but there was no real urgency. Myra first brought Rhodes to one of the guest rooms, gently removed his shoes, hesitated for a moment, then decided against taking off his clothes. Instead, she just covered him with a light blanket. Before leaving, she sat by the bed, quietly gazing at his peaceful face for a long time. Then, with a gentle smile, she leaned in and placed a soft kiss on his lips. After that, she quietly stood and slipped out, closing the door behind her. She didn't plan to take Rhodes with her. Myra knew he had been on high alert the past few days, helping the master manage guild business, sorting paperwork, attending meetings. He must have barely slept. So she used a little sleep magic to give him the rest he deserved. And when he woke up and realized she tricked him, he'd probably throw a fit or worse, use it as an excuse to do something ridiculous. so she decided to vanish for a bit. Let him cool off. Master. Myra said before boarding the magic four-wheeled vehicle. Don't let him drink a single drop of wine. Then she added with a threatening tone and a sweet smile. Or else. Makarov raised his hands in surrender. Got it, got it. I'll return him in one piece. He sighed, staring at the night sky. This old guild master has no dignity left. First Natsu had smacked him on the head, then Riza had headbutted him, and now Myra was threatening him too. Too pitiful. Jenny came to see them off. I'll beat you next time, Myra. Just you wait. Sure, go for it. Myra replied with a grin. Though I don't do much modeling these days. Maybe try competing with Riza instead? Oh? Riza's eyes sparkled. You want a competition? I'm all in. She still remembered her last photo shoot had gotten rave reviews from fans. Though. For some reason, the magazine never asked her back. Were they just rotating for freshness? Jenny's lips twitched. Your attitude is seriously irritating. Myra just chuckled. Then I'll look forward to your next feature. I'll read it with my boyfriend. TCH. Jenny sulked harder. Myra and Rhodes were both just too good at these verbal sparring matches. See you back at the guild, master. Everyone waved goodbye to Makarov as they climbed into the magic four-wheeled vehicle, previously stolen by Kageyama. I wanted to ride Rhodes' big crab. Natsu grumbled as he got in. He's resting. Myra replied sweetly. Don't disturb him, okay? Riza, ever the disciplinarian, said sharply. Move it. Stop wasting time. Under the combined weight of Myra's smile and Riza's glare, Natsu wisely zipped his mouth. Gray smirked from the back seat. Would have been better if you'd shut up earlier, flame brain. You wanna? Ugh. As the car started moving, Natsu's stomach flipped. Gray burst out laughing and patted him on the head. What's wrong? Lost your fire? Natsu clutched his mouth. I'll remember this. Shame Lucy and Happy were still out cold. Gray would have had a field day if they were awake. The return trip was smooth. Myra, Riza, and Gray took turns channeling magic into the vehicle. With no train delays, they sped down the railway far faster than any train could manage. Though a portion of the tracks at Clover Canyon had been damaged, the bridge wasn't completely destroyed, it was still barely passable. They arrived in Magnolia before midnight, just in time for showers and a good night's sleep. Then morning came. Eek! Lucy's scream echoed through the house. This is my room. Why are you here? And how did I get back? Yo. What the heck just happened? At around the same time, Rhodes finally woke up naturally after a deep nap. When he got up for breakfast, he casually asked where everyone was, only to be told by Master Makarov that the others had already returned to Magnolia. He was completely caught off guard. If he had even a little bit of his usual alertness left, he would have noticed Myra's scheme before she hit him with sleep magic. At the very least, he could have shut her down before nodding off. Rhodes touched his face suspiciously. Why do I feel like someone played a prank on me while I was out? This clearly called for payback when he got back. Despite the minor chaos from the night before, the regular guild conference still proceeded as scheduled. However, by noon, a team from the Magic Council arrived to investigate. As expected, the expressions on many of the guild masters were anything but friendly. Having nearly been annihilated by a cursed flute due to the council's negligence, their resentment was clear, even if unspoken. Still, the council representatives could only endure it in silence. After all, the failure here was undeniably theirs. If Lullaby had been played during the meeting, and dozens of guild leaders were killed or cursed, the Magic Council would have been unable to withstand the public outcry. At minimum, the council members responsible would have been forced to resign. At worst, prison. And in a truly catastrophic scenario, heads might have rolled, literally. In that sense, they now owed Fairy Tale a massive favor. Not that they'd ever admit it out loud. Rhodes, following Makarov's subtle signal, helped mediate the tension on behalf of the old man. He diplomatically explained that the council had promised to launch a full investigation, which at least allowed the guild masters to move on from the issue with barely concealed grumbling. Once the atmosphere had calmed down a little, Makarov waved again for Rhodes to formally report what had happened. Since Riza had briefed the master before she left, Rhodes stepped up to deliver the report in her place. Naturally, a retelling from Rhodes came with a slight personal spin. For instance, when discussing the panic and destruction at the station, Rhodes stated that it wasn't due to any reckless behavior, but rather because Eligar of Isendwald had taken innocent civilians hostage, forcing Riza to act swiftly and efficiently to evacuate the crowd and neutralize the threat. For example, Rhodes explained that the railway bridge was damaged during battle as part of the effort to stop Eligar's scheme and prevent a much greater disaster. Whereas Riza's original report had focused purely on the facts, Rhodes' version placed more emphasis on their good intentions and the positive outcome. Our actions were always aimed at protecting innocent lives. He concluded confidently. And in the end, we succeeded. Interestingly, Kageyama didn't refute any of this. In fact, he remained silent, perhaps because he genuinely believed what fairy tale stood for. When it came time for his interrogation, he might even speak in their defense. He wasn't a fool. Though he was involved in the incident, he'd clearly decided to turn over a new leaf. If he genuinely repented, he might one day build a decent life for himself once he'd atoned. After finishing the report, Rhodes added politely, "Had we not discovered in time that Eisenwald had obtained the cursed flute lullaby, and had the situation not been so urgent, we absolutely would have reported it through proper channels before taking action." Whether that would have been possible in reality was another story, but at least the attitude was there. The council officials were visibly uncomfortable. With so many guild masters watching them, they couldn't exactly shift the blame. In the end, all they could do was thank Fairy Tale for its cooperation and note that they might follow up with Riza and the others for more details later. As for the damages at the station and the Clover Grand Canyon Railway Bridge, the council told them not to worry, those repairs wouldn't come out of Fairy Tale's pocket. When the council members finally left with Kageyama and the sealed flute, Makarov turned to look at Rhodes with sparkling eyes. If not for the crowd, he might have kissed him right then and there. Avoiding any financial compensation for that level of destruction was practically a miracle. If the venue for the conference had been destroyed too, the consequences would have been a whole different story. Thank goodness Rhodes had been there. With this outcome, Makarov might even avoid writing a self-criticism report when he got back. Truly, what a blessing. Chapter 313, Brother, you talked too much. After the meeting wrapped up, many guild masters came over to greet Rhodes with warm smiles. They acknowledged that they owed Fairy Tale a favor this time and invited him to visit their guilds whenever he had the time. Rhodes accepted each invitation with a nod. While these weren't all powerhouse guilds, many of them had unique specialties, especially in life magic, guilds that were more practical, quirky, and rich with personality. For example, the God of Cooking's Knife Guild even whipped up some desserts before departing, sharing them with everyone present. Rhodes was already planning to visit them in the future, perhaps during his honeymoon. Yes, he had officially begun plotting out his honeymoon travel route. The current draft of the plan involved journeying across the Kingdom of Fiore. If time allowed, they might even explore neighboring countries. Of course, everything would ultimately depend on Myra's preferences too. Rhodes only indulged in such dreamy thoughts every now and then. Because of the council's delayed questioning, it was already dark by the time Rhodes and Makarov returned to Magnolia. The guild had long closed for the night, so they parted ways. Makarov headed straight home, while Rhodes made a small detour to Myra's house, just to check in, share a few sweet moments, and maybe steal a cuddle or two. Unfortunately, Elfman was also there, so anything more intimate was definitely off the table. When Rhodes arrived home, he was pleasantly surprised to find his windows spotless, and the 3 little potted plants, his green sons on the balcony, looking vibrant and lively. Then he noticed something curious. There was a magazine lying open on the table. The page just so happened to feature Urza in a black bikini. His heart skipped a beat. Wait a minute, he definitely hadn't left it open like that. Actually, come to think of it, he hadn't even bought this issue. Could Goodman have secretly borrowed it, read it here, and then left it behind? It was a bit too conspicuous to carry out in public. Or, gulp. Could it be that Myra had brought the magazine over herself? Maybe she cleaned the room, got bored waiting, flipped through it, and left it open on that exact page as a prank? No way. Right? Then again, it did sound exactly like something Myra would do. Cute. Clever. Just the right amount of mischief. Rhodes chuckled and decided to keep the page bookmarked. He'd confront her with it tomorrow, preferably while reading it right in front of her. As he moved through the room, tidying up, he noticed a long strand of white hair on the bed. He picked it up and gently smoothed it out. Not worms. That meant she had actually laid down on his bed. If you've got the guts, just stay the night next time. Rhodes murmured with a smirk. After a bit of light exercise and a warm shower, he settled into a short meditation before preparing for bed. Just before lying down, he summoned Worm for a quick-sized check. "All right, let's see what we've got here," he said, sitting on Worm's back like a test chair. Surprisingly comfy. Not bad for a sofa stool. Soft and sturdy. Might be rideable soon. Or even a bed. Worm, lured into submission with a cookie, gave up its resistance entirely. Its weight loss dreams were officially over. "I'm gonna grow up big anyway," it seemed to say. "So I might as well eat well now." The next morning, Elfman took charge of breakfast. Rhodes and Myra lounged together on the couch, flipping through the same magazine from last night. Myra was still in her soft pink spaghetti strap nightgown, looking as relaxed and radiant as ever. And she looked beautiful from every angle. Every single one. Rhodes finally confirmed that Myra had, in fact, left the magazine on the table herself. Her explanation? She forgot to take it with her. Well, if Myra said she forgot, then it must be true. She held Rhodes' arm with one hand and flipped through the magazine with the other. When she reached the page with Rizza in her swimsuit, she noticeably slowed down, sneaking glances at his face to see if his gaze lingered. But Rhodes wasn't paying attention to the magazine at all. The warmth of Myra clinging to his arm was far more distracting than anything in print. His eyes occasionally drifted elsewhere, often involuntarily. He swore to himself it wasn't on purpose. Following his gaze, Myra looked down too, and when she realized where he was occasionally glancing, her face turned bright red. Without a word, she got up and rushed upstairs. When she returned, she had changed into her usual modest clothes and stood in front of him silently. Rhodes tilted his head, puzzled. "You look great," he said honestly. "Actually, the dress you were wearing earlier was really cute too." Myra raised her hand, mock-threatening. "Say that again, I dare you." If she wasn't serious, then Rhodes would gladly enjoy the moment for himself. She puffed up her cheeks in frustration. How could this man be so shameless? Wait, was it because she looked good that he kept staring? Ugh, he's such a flirt. But if it's me, then... this is so annoying. Despite her flustered thoughts, when she sat back down, she immediately latched onto his arm again and leaned against him. This time, with her new outfit, the feeling was different. Rhodes noticed it instantly. Have I always been this sensitive? His attention kept slipping. Trying to distract himself, he casually asked. So, how's the guild been lately? Myra tilted her head thoughtfully. About the same as usual, she said. Then her voice turned slightly uneasy. But it feels like everyone's been a little scared of me recently. Like how they act around Rizza. Rhodes chuckled. That's what happens when you show off, Demon Mrjane. Myra squeezed his arm tighter. Then what about you? Are you scared of me too? Rhodes paused dramatically, then winked with his left eye and lowered his voice mischievously. Isn't it kinda exciting? Don't copy me. She scolded, recognizing her own trademark flirty tone being used against her. I've been scolded. So scary. I might die from fear. Rhodes said with playful deadpan, completely unfazed. Myra shot him a glare. If you're so scared, can you please move your hand off my leg? Pervert. Just then, Elfman poked his head in from the kitchen. He stood there, awkward and silent, for a good 20 seconds before finally gathering the courage to speak. It's time to eat. Thanks for calling us. Myra got up calmly and walked to the table with a perfectly composed smile, as if absolutely nothing had happened. Huh? Eisenwald incident made the news? Rhodes asked, pausing before he even sat down at the table. The front page of the newspaper showed a photo of the Magic Council's enforcement squad escorting Eisenwald members away in restraints. Before he could read further, Myra handed him his utensils with a gentle smile. It was a terrorist attack targeting guild masters, she said. Of course it shocked the entire country. The Eisenwald's ruthless plan had stirred fear nationwide, but Fairy Tale's heroic intervention, stopping a catastrophe in its tracks, had made headlines and earned widespread praise. The damage to the train station and the Clover Canyon Railway, a footnote at best, now overshadowed by Fairy Tale's decisive response. Sis. That was so manly. Elfman shouted, practically shaking from excitement. You got to take part in something that epic. Myra chuckled, well used to her younger brothers. Unique brand of compliments. To be fair, most of the credit goes to Rizza and the others, she said modestly. Still, if Elfman thought that was manly, maybe it was time to show him just how manly his sister could be. During their next training session, Elfman tilted his head. But wait, didn't Natsa say he beat Erger? The paper says he escaped. Myra nodded. Yeah, he slipped away before the council arrived. He uses wind magic to fly, so if he wants to flee, he can vanish in seconds. Rhodes frowned. Letting someone like that escape is dangerous. He's a known assassin, now with a grudge against our guild. He didn't mean to blame them. Chasing down Kageyama had taken priority, but leaving an enemy like Erger roaming free was never a good outcome. The council's already stepped up the search, Myra said. They're expected to issue a bounty mission today. Bounty missions were special types of requests, different from normal jobs. Instead of needing to formally register for a quest, a wizard could act the moment they spotted the target. These missions allowed legal engagement with dangerous fugitives without waiting on permission. It was an official override of the Prohibition of Armed Resistance Treaty, a serious measure reserved for only the most dangerous offenders. Of course, any wizard who found Erger could still accept the mission through formal channels, track, subdue, and turn him in, All by the book. Alternatively, if someone didn't want to fight but still had good intel, they could simply report it. The council would reward them with an information fee, anywhere from 5% to 20% of the bounty, depending on how useful the intel was. And for a criminal as dangerous as Erger, the bounty was bound to be sizable. We should take this one, Rhodes said, a gleam in his eye. Let's scour the entire kingdom of Fiore. We'll find him for sure. And if we don't, then we'll just keep searching overseas. Elfman squinted. Are you going on a manhunt or planning a vacation? Rhodes, brother, you talk too much. Chapter 314, Lucy's mission. Myra's prediction was spot on. Not long after they returned to the guild, a letter arrived from the Magic Council, an official bounty notice for Erger. The reward, 5 million J. It was an odd amount. If the mission was being treated as S-class, the reward felt too low. But if it wasn't classified as S-class, the risk was far too high. Erger was a ruthless killer with powerful magic. This wasn't some back alley thief. It was unclear what the council was thinking with a price like that. After some discussion between Myra and Master Mikarov, they decided to post the notice on the guild's first floor. If nothing else, the high bounty would make one thing clear to everyone: Erger was dangerous. Do not engage him recklessly. 5 million J? We let 5 million J get away? Lucy, already stressed over her rent, practically collapsed at the front counter, banging her forehead on the desk without any sense of grace. Happy lifted his little paws and asked curiously, "Hey Myra, how many fish can you buy with 5 million J?" Myra giggled. Hard to say exactly, but probably enough to fill your and Natsu's house. Happy drooled at a mental image. Natsu, let's go catch Erger. Oh, I'm fired up already. Natsu pumped his fists. But didn't we agree Lucy gets to pick the next job? Happy blinked, then turned to Lucy. Lucy, are you picking this one? Lucy let out a long sigh. This isn't something you choose like a normal request. There's no info or clues to follow. How would we even take it on? She turned back to Myra hopefully. Miss Myra, is there a job that actually suits me you can recommend? Myra tapped her chin thoughtfully. Well, the park's fountain broke down. They need someone to fix it, or use water magic to keep it running. Lucy's eyes lit up. Oh. That sounds. Didn't you summon Aquarius? Myra added helpfully. Lucy's face fell. Forget it. If I ask Aquarius to do something like that, she'll drown the entire park and me. Okay, what about a sparring partner gig? There's a boxing gym looking for volunteers. You have Taurus and Virgo, right? Lucy blushed. Taurus, maybe. But why Virgo? Myra gave her an innocent smile. Didn't you say Virgo likes being punished? Getting punched a few times might be right up her alley. That's so sad. Lucy groaned. Even if she'd agree, I can't do that to her, or Taurus either, that horn dog. I think Virgo might enjoy it. Myra mumbled, half to herself. Alright, how about this? Cancer can help trim hair. Why not open a little pop-up salon right here in the guild? Myra suggested, her eyes sparkling. You can run it with a temporary commission. That's actually a cute idea. Cancer does love cutting hair. It's perfect timing too, Myra said, clasping her hands together. Rhodes's hair has gotten a bit long. He'd look even more handsome with a trim. I feel like you just want to pamper your boyfriend. Lucy sighed, face palming. I talk this long and still end up cutting someone's hair for free. She slumped over dramatically. And it's not like my magic power lasts forever. Lucy was still feeling a little weak. Myra cupped her cheek, her tone half genuine, half teasing. Lucy's really picky sometimes. Lucy's always like that. Happy chimed in. Just yesterday morning, she wouldn't let me sharpen my claws on her wall. That's because it's my wall. Lucy snapped, exasperated. She could never understand how her friends treated her home like it was some kind of public rest stop. They ate her food, used her bathroom, napped on her bed, and even read her draft manuscripts, completely shameless. She had spent all of yesterday morning complaining about it. And yet, in everyone's eyes, she never actually seemed that upset. In fact, it kind of looked like she enjoyed their company. Thinking back on it, even Myra felt a little sheepish. When she dropped Lucy off the night before last, the atmosphere in the apartment had been so lively and fun that Myra had ended up staying the night with everyone else. Somehow, she even joined in on bath time with Ursa, cooked dinner together, and helped Lucy change into her pajamas. Myra came to one very important conclusion that night: Lucy had a great figure, and so did Ursa. Anyway, Myra said, shifting gears with a bright smile. As a formal apology for crashing at your place, how about summoning Cancer, to give Rhodes a haircut? Fine. Lucy sighed, fingers automatically brushing the keys at her waist before suddenly pausing. Wait, hold on. Who exactly are you apologizing to? Myra waved a hand breezily. Oh, don't worry about those little details. Rhodes, who had just been summoned over by Myra, arrived to find Lucy mid-summoning. Open, Gate of the Crab. Cancer. A golden glow lit up the room as a large, flamboyant man with crab-styled hair and scissors in both hands appeared through the shimmering gate. What are we trimming today, shrimp? He asked, twirling his scissors dramatically. It's the crab who ends every sentence with shrimp. Happy gasped. You've already pointed that out before. Lucy reminded him with a sigh. Please help Mr. Rhodes with his hair. Okay, shrimp. Cancer spun his scissors with a flourish and motioned for Rhodes to sit down. Rhodes glanced around, half expecting a smock or cape to keep his clothes clean. But before he could even ask, Cancer was already moving, the scissors flashing with blinding speed around his head. Rhodes sat as still as stone, barely daring to breathe as blades danced past his ears. And yet, miraculously, not a single hair landed on his clothes or the floor. His hair was definitely being trimmed neatly too, but it was as if the stray hairs were being magically erased. Myra watched Cancer's technique with interest. After a moment, she frowned thoughtfully. Looks like this won't be easy to learn. Miss, are you interested in learning hairdressing? I'd like to pick up a little. Myra replied. Would you be willing to teach me? No problem, said Cancer, his scissors never slowing. This technique is a form of specialized magic. It depends on your talent whether you can master it. Cancer's hairstyling magic was indeed incredible. With just a few snips, he could trim hair shorter, make it longer, or even give it a glossy, salon-quality finish. Ooh, Miss Myra, planning to cut Mr. Rhodes' hair yourself after this? Lucy teased, her eyes flitting between the two. You two are awfully close, after all. Happy couldn't hold back his commentary, they're this close. Myra didn't deny it in the slightest. Yep, that's right, she said with a soft smile. No shame in wanting to help him out. Lucy, don't you have any guys you'd want to do something nice for? Nope. Lucy sighed, visibly dejected. She mentally reviewed the guys she'd met since joining the guild, a wild man beast, a nice stripper, a shameless flirt, and a hyperactive fire breather. As for the normal ones? One stared at Bisca all day, and the other, well, he was already Myra's boyfriend. In fairy tale, normal guys were practically an endangered species. All done. Looks great, Myra exclaimed, holding up a mirror for Rhodes. Rhodes checked his reflection. His dark hair was neat, smooth, and had a healthy shine, better than any salon he'd been to. Just 2 pairs of scissors, and you get the full wash, cut, dry, and treatment? That's some next-level magic. The customer's satisfaction is the greatest reward, Cancer said with a graceful bow, then disappeared in a shimmer of light. Thanks, Lucy. Can I get an annual membership card from you? Rhodes asked jokingly. There's no such thing. Lucy shot him a look. And I'm starting to doubt you're one of the normal ones too, Mr. Rhodes. But since Myra's helped me so much, if you ever need Cancer again, just let me know. In that case, let me return the favor by recommending a couple of missions. Rhodes offered. I know you like a bit of adventure, but nothing too dangerous. These would suit you, Natsu, and Happy perfectly. Really? Lucy blinked. You have jobs tailored to us? Yup. First, there's a hunt. A village's poultry and livestock have been getting mauled recently. Their hunters went into the forest, but they came back scratched and bitten. Traps don't work either. They suspect it's a quick, carnivorous predator, probably a leopard or jackal. The reward is 100,000 J. Ooh, that sounds great. Natsu's eyes lit up. A good old-fashioned beatdown of some mysterious beast? Right up his alley. Lucy looked thoughtful. That did sound manageable. If they split the 100,000 J reward evenly, each of them would get over 30,000 J. That would cover half her rent at least. But she didn't jump at the offer just yet. What about the second one? She asked. Chapter 315, which is stronger, Lucy's luck or Natsu's destructive power. The second mission is a strange jewelry theft case. Rhodes explained. In a small town nearby, numerous pieces of jewelry have gone missing. But there were no signs of forced entry, no broken locks, no open windows, nothing. The locals suspect the culprit must be a wizard. If you manage to catch the thief, the reward is 150,000 J. 150,000 J? Lucy's eyes sparkled like treasure. That amount would cover almost all her rent in one go. And the mystery behind it was just begging to be turned into material for her novel. I want that one, Lucy declared eagerly. Don't rush, Rhodes said with a small smile. You can actually take both missions at once. The village where the livestock is being attacked isn't far from the town with the thefts. In fact, he leaned forward slightly. If my hunch is correct, the thief might even be hiding in the same forest where the beast is roaming. Lucy's excitement grew. Natsu, what do you think? Natsu clenched his fists, full of energy. He'd clearly been waiting for Lucy to pick something for a while now. No problem. Let's complete both missions in one go, then you won't have to worry about rent anymore. We'll have money for fish again. And as long as Lucy pays her rent, we can keep messing up her place. Happy cheered. Why is my house the only place you guys hang out? Lucy grabbed Happy by the cheeks. And did you just say mess up? So it's settled then. Myra smiled. You're going to hunt the beast and track down a jewel thief. If you're sure, go ahead and grab the job requests. Technically, it wasn't standard practice to juggle 2 jobs at once, especially for a new team, but in this case, both missions were relatively low risk, and the trio was clearly strapped for cash. Myra felt it was fine to bend the rules a little. Lucy rushed over to the request board and quickly spotted both jobs. Like a seasoned pro, she followed the usual procedure: locate the mission slip, grab the cloth string attached, and tear it off cleanly, efficient and quick. Myra took the requests and stamped them for approval. Meanwhile, Rhodes was scribbling something rapidly behind the counter. Wait for me just a few more minutes, he said. Natsu leaned over and whispered. I think he's writing one of those long-winded guides again. We don't have to wait for that, right? Let's go. Huh? But it looks important, Lucy said, watching Rhodes intently. Happy raised his paw. I think we should wait. This kind of stuff usually helps. Minority rule lost, Natsu had to sit tight while the other two insisted. A moment later, Rhodes handed Lucy several folded documents. These are the basics for both missions: maps, names, and possible clues. Read them on the way, he explained. And this. He tapped a smaller booklet. This is the mission strategy guide. Happy knows how to use it. Happy declared proudly. Lucy, even if you lose your skirt, don't lose this. Why would I lose my skirt? Lucy huffed. And what even is this guide? In short, Rhodes explained. If you're the kind of person who enjoys the thrill of adventure and wants to complete the mission independently, then just review the basic info sheets. But if you want to finish efficiently and aim for the highest reward possible, then you'll want to read what I wrote carefully. He had refined his support strategy, leaving it up to the team to decide not only whether they'd listen to his advice, but whether they even wanted to know it in the first place. Too much chatter. Just burn it all. Obviously, we're doing this mission by ourselves, Natsu exclaimed, flames flaring in his hands. No way. Lucy quickly hugged the documents close to her chest like a precious treasure. Mr. Rhodes had taken the time to write this all out, and if even Happy said it was important, there was no way she was tossing it aside just because of Natsu. Without missing a beat, she began organizing their next steps. Let's all head home and grab our things, we leave in 30 minutes. Natsu groaned in defeat. Rhodes, let me borrow the crab. Rhodes blinked, playing dumb. What crab? You know. That big summon beast of yours, the one shaped like a crab. I don't want to ride in a carriage. Oh? Rhodes raised a brow. But didn't you just say you were going to complete the mission all on your own? And I'm just some guy who talks too much. Wouldn't asking for help from me be cheating? Our revenge. Natsu shouted, pointing an accusing finger at him. And immediately froze, mouth open in stunned silence. PFFT. Happy quickly turned away, paws over his mouth to stifle his giggles. Myra chuckled softly, clearly enjoying the scene as much as Happy. As Natsu stumbled away, visibly sulking, Myra glanced toward Rhodes and asked with a smile. Do you think Lucy will be able to earn the full reward this time? Rhodes watched the departing trio and answered with a soft smile. She just might. Lucy's got surprisingly good luck. He wasn't exaggerating. He'd only just learned today that Lucy was lucky enough to find the golden key on her very first mission after joining Fairy Tail. Even though she didn't get any money from that job, obtaining a zodiac key, something that couldn't be bought even with a mountain of jewels, was an extraordinary reward in itself. The key to Virgo had originally belonged to Duke Everlew. But after Lucy and Natsu helped expose his crimes and gather enough evidence, the corrupt noble was arrested, and Virgo was released from his contract. According to the rules of celestial spirit contracts, Virgo's previous agreement was nullified when her contractor, Duke Everlew, was arrested. Afterward, she sought out Lucy on her own and signed a new contract with her. As Myra had once explained, Virgo had actually played a pivotal role in the incident involving Lullaby. Seriously, who else joins the guild and immediately ends up with one of the 12 rare golden zodiac keys as a reward on their first mission? Still, Lucy's absurd luck once made Rhodes seriously question, between her and Natsu, who was the real protagonist of their story. But about this new mission. I'll make a bet. Rhodes said with a sly grin. I'm guessing Lucy will only be able to earn at most half the reward. What are we betting? Myra asked with interest. I haven't decided yet, he admitted. Let's say the winner gets to make one reasonable request. All right. Myra nodded, clasping her hand in his. If Lucy earns more than half, I win. Clap. They sealed the deal with a slap of their palms. Afterward, Myra teased him with a smile. You made such a detailed plan for Lucy. Don't you have any confidence she'll pull it off? I have complete confidence in Natsu's destructive tendencies. Rhodes replied wryly. That's the problem. Even if Natsu had learned to hold back a little these days, Lucy keeping him under control was still a miracle every time. Just then, Loki called out from the guild entrance. Myra. The wine delivery you ordered yesterday is here. Come give me a hand. She added with a huff. And the lazy guy hanging around Myra. Yeah, you too. I'm coming. Myra called back, then gave Rhodes a playful pat on the shoulder. Let's go, slacker. Slander. Rhodes cried. When have I ever slacked off during work? Loki raised an eyebrow. Last week, there were clearly 2 tables to clean, and you insisted on wiping the same one as Myra. 2 weeks ago, you helped with inventory and just echoed Myra's count like a parrot. And last month. Alright, I get it. Rhodes waved his hands in surrender, cutting her off. He narrowed his eyes,